call this meeting of the Arundel Planning Board in order. Today's May 23rd, 2019. It is 7 p.m. We're in the ML Elementary School Library. We have on the agenda, we have an approval of the agenda, public comments, approval of the minutes, pending applications. We have two Rontu's Run Dog Daycare, a major conditional use application. Item 2 is B&B Trucking, a plenary site plan review. Then we have 4 new applications. Motorland Classic Cars, a major conditional use permit application. Item 2 is American Iron and Metal, a major conditional use application, determination of completeness. Item 3 is Morocco Enterprises LLC, a major conditional use pre-application and subdivision amendment. And item 4 is Joyful Noise Daycare Center, a major conditional use pre-application and major subdivision pre-application. Item 5 was Pitchfork subdivision. They have asked us to pull it from the agenda for tonight, and we will be placing them on the agenda for the 13th of June. Start off with a call to order.
Okay.
Susan Roth.
Roger Moore, Jamie Loud.
Rich Canong.
Jens Bergen.
Any additions to the agenda? Hearing none, I need a motion.
Move to accept as amended.
Okay.
I'll second that.
We have a motion to approve and a second for the agenda as amended. Any discussion at all? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Okay.
It is unanimous. Public comment. Public comment is the time in which, if a member of the public has a comment to make about something that is not on the agenda, we will entertain it and we'll investigate it. Does anyone have anything they'd like to say to the planning board? Seeing none, we'll move on to approval of the minutes for May.
I have the May 9th, and if we have the forum for April 25th, that could be there as well.
I have the minutes for May 9th.
You have the minutes for April 25th last time. We didn't have one.
Okay.
Did you
Well,
bring them?
I have them. We'll go with the minutes of April 25th.
Who was present at that?
I was not.
Yeah. Of the 4 of us that were here
I was here.
last week, yeah. I was not there at that
On
one.
the 25th.
Correct.
Were you there, Roger?
I think I was.
Marty was
last
there.
week, 2 weeks ago.
And Tom was there. Tom would be the 4th one.
Yeah.
So we still have to table it.
Okay.
So in that case, we'll move on to the minutes for May 9th.
The one thing that I'm seeing that, or that I'm not seeing is our, vote to, put the public hearing, sort of to have another public hearing for the contractor yard.
That needs to be added.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can review the video and see exactly when we did it, and-
Yeah, I mean, I'm just thinking,
I know it was discussed
when I
at
look
the
at
time,
that, right,
but-
when I'm looking at that, it's not clear from the minutes that that was sort of the outcome.
yeah. And I can review it, and I identify it usually really clearly in my notes when there's a vote taken.
Yep.
I know it was discussed and the plan was to do it,
Right,
but I don't know if a vote was specifically taken, but I will review the video.
That was a
Okay.
long
yeah, that was a long,
episode.
yeah. So,
Is there anything else? Should we table it for the next meeting, so we get that in?
yeah,
For clarification.
For
Right.
clarification, we'll table the minutes of May 9th for the next meeting. Moving right along. Pending applications, Rontu's Run Dog Daycare, a major conditional use application, proposal to establish a pet daycare center in an existing riding stable located at 496 Limerick Road, tax map 27, lot 2, in the R1 district. Kristen Woodard is the owner and applicant. Purpose for tonight is to determine whether or not this is a complete application. Mr. Planner, is it complete? Do we have what we need to make a decision?
You have all the information, yes, the applicant responded to the letter that I wrote, that you instructed me to, of all the deficiencies that were in the application. The applicant has responded to all of those deficiencies. This is the board's decision to make a determination whether that meets all those deficiencies. And right now, there has been a response to all of them, and we can determine the application complete. And everything you need to make a judgment.
If we determine the application complete, we can move to a public hearing at the next meeting.
Is there room at the next meeting for public hearing? Because I think at the next meeting, we also have other public hearings.
No, the next meeting's on the 13th of June, and we have public hearings on the
30th.
30th of May, and there has been a meeting scheduled for June 6th that I'll talk about after. But on the 13th, I don't believe there are any other public hearings.
Okay, that's why I was thinking, you know, the 30th, I didn't think there was enough on the agenda to,
Yeah, no, we won't do it on the
Yeah.
30th.
There's not enough time for me to publish it.
I'm just throwing it out as a question.
That's the case, I make a motion, we deem the application complete.
Is there a second?
second.
The motion has been made and seconded to deem Rontu's Run Dog Daycare a completed application. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Nay.
Aye.
5 in favor, 1 opposed?
I think we skipped over discussion rather quickly.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay, so, there were a couple of things that we needed to discuss. One was waste. It's true that there was a letter in the file from the waste management company that they contacted, but it doesn't say anything about dog waste. It just says that he's happy to have them as a customer, but it doesn't say anything that he'll be picking up dog waste from the kennel. That's the first thing. Second, I don't know what the rule is in the state of Maine, but I thought it was that wire crates were not kosher, and wire crates are still the order of the day. Secondly, they didn't address the fact that there's no water. They have to bring a hose in to fill up buckets, clean, and things like that. There's no drainage. They're putting in a heat pump, but they say it will take care of heating and cooling, but a heat pump does just that. It takes care of heat, it doesn't take care of cooling. It doesn't really address what the indoor play area is all about. And I think it's deficient.
The process being, we have what we need to determine the application complete. They've given us all of the information necessary. We may or may not, on June 13th, decide to grant the application. We may say that it is too deficient, and we are not going to grant the application. For the purposes of this hearing, though, do we have everything that we need to reach a decision? Not going one way or the other. Do we have the information necessary to make that decision? And I think we do have enough information to make the decision. They've given us everything that we've asked for. That's the criteria to determine whether or not we would grant the application.
Well, I sort of was encouraging them to go back to the drawing board before, I mean, if we wanna deem it complete and there's a good likelihood that we're going to deny it, I think we should try to give them a chance to know exactly what we're thinking so that they can be successful or not. But I don't think what they've submitted now is complete enough, and I don't think they're gonna have the outcome that they want. And perhaps before we go through this exercise and possibly deny it, which seems like a likelihood, or at least in my mind it is, that we ask them to take one more crack at it to get it a little more refined. I mean, I don't have a horse in the race, I mean, I just would like to see them successful. And if, you know, I don't think it is in the current state. And, but if you wanna accept it on that basis and we'll vote on it down the road, I'm happy to do that, but again, I think, it would be helpful to them for them to know exactly what we're thinking. And I pretty much just told them what I was thinking.
Any thoughts, Mr. Planner?
You can make the motion, you can make the discussion on this from a procedural standpoint, you still can discuss the application tonight if you so wish,
Okay.
but you do have a motion on the floor.
Well, we can ask them if they would like us to, discuss it further, proceed, or, you know, if they think I'm in the minority, then, and they think they have, you know, the majority and they'll get through the way it is, then we should vote on it.
Well, then I'll sort of echo Rich's point, in a determination of completeness, to me, is not in any way an endorsement of the project.
Okay.
It's solely saying that everything that that they're required to submit for an application has been submitted. And that we're then able to move, you know, sort of proceed in through to the process to a public hearing and, you know, further discussion. Now, you know, I think the applicant probably would very much appreciate to hear any concerns we have at the time. I mean, if I was the applicant, I would, but.
Now, as opposed to later.
Right, so
Right.
that they can be, you know, hopefully addressed before the next meeting, so.
I saw
We
it.
have to withdraw the motion or we, to ask the applicant.
We do, don't we?
As I said, procedurally, I mean, you can determine something complete, but if you
Yeah.
wanna discuss the application some more, you certainly can.
Okay.
Certainly
Right.
prevents this board from discussing this application.
Okay. Let's vote on on the motion to determine the application complete, and then have a discussion with the applicant on the information. Those in favor of determining the application complete,
Aye.
Aye.
Then.
it is unanimous.
You said that, okay.
We need to set a public hearing date. The earliest date available is June 13th. I need a motion.
Move to have public hearing for Rogers Run on June 13th.
I'll second that.
Motion's been made and seconded for June 13th for a public hearing. Any discussion? Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Now, would you like to discuss this with the applicant? Or would the applicant
I
like to
would like to
discuss
know
it
if
with
the
us?
applicant would like to discuss it with us.
Sure, I mean, as far as, the, dog waste, you couldn't make a formal application, in the letter because I'm not open yet. But it says right on the heading, doggy daycare. Okay, so they know that they're gonna be picking up dog waste.
I know that for a fact not to be true, simply because we use the same company in New Hampshire for a kennel, and we have a separate company that comes and gets dog waste, and they asked specifically whether or not we are throwing our dog waste into the dumpster. And they did not wanna collect it based on that, so I don't think you can assume.
Well, I spoke to this woman and told her exactly what I needed, and she was more than happy.
Well, then she should put it in her letter,
Okay, I'll call her back.
that's one thing.
What else you have, Susan?
Well, I think there's a water issue, because there isn't any running water in that room. I don't think the crates are adequately separated and, from each other to really prevent, fence fighting. I'm not sure that the heat pump is adequate in such a small space with a bunch of dogs in there if it's hot. I don't think that the playroom has been adequately addressed. The four-season playroom that's enclosed hasn't been adequately addressed, because I'm not sure that it really is a four-season playroom. And, there's a few other things, but I don't wanna be the only naysayer.
Did you get the letter from Paws and Around Daycare?
I did.
Okay, she had 60 dogs in wire crates, and she ran that business for years.
Well, what's the law in the state of Maine, Rich, about crates and wire crates? And how the dogs are supposed to be separated in a daycare?
I'm not sure what the state of Maine law is. The land use ordinance says that the animals cannot be crated all the time.
And the standard, that standard comes from the says that, it specifies what that standard is from.
So essentially, Rich, before when we did the site visit and we looked at the wire crates and then we came back and had our meeting, one of the topics of discussion was that those crates were contrary to the, what the land use ordinance specifically says in its language. And now, we're saying that they can't be crated all the time. Now, the other thing is that I don't know whether or not a wire enclosure is actually designated as a crate. And it's certainly not a dog run. So, maybe there's some refinement necessary in terms, but, and the fact that the dogs are gonna be elevated off the ground so that they can urinate and defecate and you can clean that up and whatever is, in my mind, not adequate. I mean, there's no drainage system at all in there. There's no running waters. There's no sink. There's nothing there.
No, I remember the discussion revolved around whether or not there would be something underneath the crates to catch the stuff, but there was also a question of separation, so that the dogs would not be able to get at each other. That issue appears to have been resolved with the partitions between the crates.
Well, I mean, the partitions look like, I forget, foam board that's been attached to the side of the crates with plastic fasteners. I mean, that doesn't really do anything material to really separate the kind of interactions that you're gonna get between dogs. I just, from a professional standpoint, I know from personal experience that that's not gonna cut it.
If you did a site walk on that, why didn't you tell her then?
We did.
Well, she was most certainly been advised of these concerns repeatedly. And this is not the first time Ms. Roth is voicing these concerns.
We were very clear, both when we were there and when this application first came before the board, it was exactly what I just said now, was what was said then. And I wasn't the only one who said it. It was pretty much a consensus of the entire planning board that the space was inadequate. So, I mean, I'm vocal about it, but I'm not the only voice.
What would you suggest that they be divided by?
I just don't think wire crates are adequate. I just, I told you, I thought a regular, crate would probably be better than these. Simply because they become a safe harbor for the dog, and they, I don't have to tell you, you obviously have taken care of dogs before, but in a wire crate, a dog feels completely and utterly exposed. At least in a crate, like even a large shipping crate, a 700, for instance, at least a dog will feel like that's a den, and it is a safe harbor. But in a wire crate, they're completely exposed. So there is no safe harbor for them.
So all these dog daycares that use wire crates, the dogs must just be miserable.
I don't know, I've never had a doggy, I run a kennel in New Hampshire, and we have indoor-outdoor runs. Clearly, it's not this, but when we have to crate a dog, it's not in a wire crate, it's in a crate.
But what I'm saying is all these other places that do use wire crates, that the dogs must be miserable, right? Because they're out.
I can't speak for these other places, I can only speak from my own personal experience with wire crates. And I'm just telling you, I mean, they may have a very positive experience, I would doubt it.
So
But,
the
you have to ask the dogs.
So the letter that I had that woman write, that had her business, I believe she said, 60 dogs a day, and use wire crates.
Well, I could probably get you at least 15, I mean, it's irrelevant.
But
I
isn't
mean-
it up to the person who comes to me for their dog's care, isn't it up to them to say, I don't want a wire crate?
No, I think it's up to the state of Maine and whatever our land use
Well, I've been
ordinance is, and
inspected
so
by the
we should
state
just
of Maine.
abide by that.
I've been inspected by the state of Maine, and he finds absolutely nothing wrong. I have my
Okay.
inspection right here, he just did it last week, if you'd like to see.
And he thinks that the physical plant that you've laid out is perfectly
Yes,
adequate.
he does.
Well, then, I don't have, there's nothing for
We
me to
haven't
say.
heard from any dog psychologists about the crate issue. I don't know what to make of that, honestly. But I do think that the plan for cleaning up waste, it just being dropped through the wire mesh, and there not being any water serving the building is, it's troublesome to me.
Well, I think one of the points here that has been ongoing is everyone is talking like it is a boarding facility. Like the dogs are gonna be there 24 hours a day. Okay, they're only gonna be there during the day. They're gonna be out the majority of the time when the weather is good. Okay, they're only gonna be in those crates a very short period of time. And again, if you've read these letters, okay, dogs don't soil where they are unless they're sick or they have a problem. Okay, they're gonna go when they go outside, and this whole, feces, urine, falling, it's gonna be on occasion, yes, it's not gonna be a daily thing. But I just don't understand why this.
Well, that's one of the things I didn't understand, that's why I'm raising the point. So I'm hearing something now for the first time, and that's good.
Did you all read the letter that, the woman from Paws and Rome?
Yes.
I included that.
Yep.
In here. Okay, and she pretty much covers, what a daycare is, and, how much the dogs are out, and the soiling those crates is a rare occurrence.
You're not just gonna shut them in there at 8 o'clock and leave them, get them out at 5.
Right.
Well, the thing is, we don't know that, and the thing is, we're not with you all day long. So the way, I think, to deal with the issue is, we follow the land use ordinance, chapter and verse. Period, paragraph, end of story. That's it. I mean, it's very simple, if it's laid out, in the land use ordinance, then we should just follow it.
The land use ordinance doesn't specify the type of crate, so the metal mesh crates that she has here would be acceptable to us. From the land use ordinance standpoint.
Tad?
Well, section K says, dogs shall not be caged individually except for an area in which aggressive dogs can be separated. That's section K. And the issue of crating, you came up, and I think we mentioned the last time, what the guidelines for standards of animal care and by the Association of Shelter Veterinarians, that's where these standards came from. They came up with a set of standards on what is appropriate for the animal, and I think that was specified in one of the letters that we sent regarding how much space was available in a crate situation, that the dog had to be able to stand upright, move around, and if you had an enclosure, it's called an enclosure.
Not a crate,
No, it's called an enclosure.
right.
You know, and it is an enclosure for an individual dog, it's supposed to be like a den.
Like a, right,
And you know, basically, they said if you use crates, or you use cages, well, they specifically say in here that you shouldn't use wire. But they said if you do, you should separate the dogs and make it so that at least they can move around. If move around, their tail is not impeded by.
right, and their ears are not supposed to touch the top of the kennel.
That's, yeah. That's the statement that they have in this book. And that's, Plainwood didn't make this stuff up, it came from this book, which is referenced by, other dog care, other daycare facilities that are in other parts of this, country. We went through this quite a bit when we did this, because we envisioned large commercial ones in this. Originally, it was gonna be in the commercial district, and it was going to be for large doggy daycares, not much different than Toddle Inn or something like that, in which you just basically drop off your dog and they will give you a pet. And the enclosures and the standards that we got when you wrote this stuff was from this book, and that was what was recommended by the association. So, that's why section K said basically it should be pretty. It should follow the standards of what it says.
So, Kristen, how do you foresee a typical day going in the you know, life of a dog that's under your care? I mean, what's, you know,
People drop their dogs off in the morning.
Yep.
Once they're all there, have had interviews or whatever to know which dogs get along with who. You send out the dogs that get along, you know, first group out, you know, we let them play for however long, you bring them in, you take out the next group of dogs.
and when you're saying you're only having 10 dogs, that's probably a small group of
Right.
a third to half of the dogs, probably?
Right. I mean, on a rare occasion, they may all get along.
Yep.
You know, the indoor portion, I will say, I would use that as little as possible. You know, weather permitting, we have them out.
So what about in the winter months? How, I mean, that sounds great on, you know, a day like today, but what about, you know, when it's 20 degrees out?
Well, I mean, again, I would still put them out so that they could relieve themselves. And then same thing, you know, bring a few of them in, some in their crates, some in the play area. You know, some dogs wanna be out in the snow. My
Okay.
dogs love to be
Oh,
out
I've
in
got a
the
lab that loves it.
snow, you know, so it's, you know, I'm gonna individualize it for each dog. And then, you know, they're gonna be going in and out throughout the day, and then they'll come in right before the owners come to pick them up.
And do you give meals to the dogs during the day?
If the owners want it, to,
And so where do you clean the bowls and things like that from their meals?
in my house.
And so you fill up the water buckets for the dogs also in the house?
No, I have a hose.
But in cold weather and during the winter, does the hose work to fill up?
Yeah, you just disconnect it when you're done with it. So it doesn't freeze. I do that in the barn all the time.
Well, we heard such additional information as we need.
I would say, I mean, in my opinion for tonight, yeah, we've learned some things and, hear more at the public hearing, or discuss more at the public hearing.
Anybody have any other questions? No? Hearing none, we will see you in 2 weeks at the public hearing.
This was good, this was a public hearing. This was supposed to finalize it after the last meeting that was here, I thought.
Because of issues with the school, we were not able to stay in the facility. The school set the standard that said, excuse me, let me answer your
Okay,
question.
Okay.
The school set the standard that said at 10:30, when the person who cleans the school leaves, we were supposed to leave. The town manager has since talked with the school, and we have a workaround for that issue, should a meeting take longer than that going forward. 2 weeks ago, we didn't have that option. We were told, when the janitor leaves, we have to leave the building.
I was here at the meeting and we were here till 10:30.
Yeah.
And you listened to the other people with big expenses, but you couldn't give Chris 5 minutes? You guys were gonna stay till 10:30,
Well,
at 10, something
so
like 10:27,
we-
whatever it was.
we started, it was the consensus of the board that, I mean, you see tonight, we spent a
Yeah,
half
I
an hour.
understand it was a consensus of the
Right.
board, but I
But we
thought,
spent a half hour tonight doing that vote. We would have been well in excess, at 10:30, we would have been well in excess of the 10 o'clock timeframe when we normally stop our meetings. So that's where it was decided to postpone that project until tonight.
so you tell me at the last meeting that you would have just done what you just did now and still send her on away without the ability to, to start getting dogs and completing her kennel?
She would not be able to complete that until after a
There'd
public
have to be
hearing
a
anyway.
public hearing.
Right.
So we deemed her application complete, which means we vote on it and it has to go to a public hearing. So she wouldn't have been able to put dogs in the kennel whether we
Right.
did this last week or 2 weeks ago, or we did it tonight. The outcome is the same, time-wise.
Was the last meeting, was that a public hearing?
No,
No.
Not for her.
Wasn't.
not for her then.
Okay.
And to the chair,
Yeah, Marty.
our normal cutoff time
Yeah.
is, we have to be out of here at 10 o'clock.
Correct.
We played and pushed, just try to get as much as we could complete. And that was pushed until 10:30, which we have never done before.
Yeah, I understand that, Marty, I was here.
I know, but I'm just
Okay.
saying,
I just couldn't understand why you could, the two applicants that, almost $1 million, you stayed over to listen to them and give them the
Well,
okay to
It's
go
So
on.
I
simply the
think to
order
your
of the
point-
agenda, ma'am.
Hmm?
That was simply the order of the agenda.
But
I
so,
understand
but to
that,
your
but you
point,
stayed
perhaps,
over.
perhaps we should be more mindful when we're gonna have an extended, protracted discussion like the one we had. We had certain residents here who had a lot of,
I know,
points to raise.
I
So
heard,
what happened is that
Didn't
people
expect
who had business that could have been resolved more quickly should have been first. And that extended discussion should have been last, because it could have spilled over
So it
into
was-
another meeting.
so it was a learning curve,
I would say, for me, it was
Yeah.
a learning curve.
okay.
Okay.
You can't predict.
and I didn't expect the public hearings to be dragged as long, over and over redundant as they were. Because if there wasn't as long, she would have been, had more than ample time to be heard.
But you know, people who had professionals here that night, we should have just taken care of them first and had it over with. And I think, you know, timing wise, maybe we'll be better at scheduling, so that people can get in and out of here, especially when they have, you know, surveyors and, you know, all kinds of engineers and sound guys and everybody else.
Okay.
But
Moving on to item 2, B&B Trucking, a plenary site plan review, a proposal for a truck repair facility with associated parking and support facilities on a 2.04 acre parcel of land, tax map 4, lot 13, in the Alfred Road Business District. Robert Maskell is the owner applicant, and Paul Gadboy, P.E., is the applicant's agent. We had a site walk earlier this evening. And this is the result of the sidewalk, so that we can convey to the applicants the things that we saw and discussed. And I should tell you, on the, we talked about the border between, where we had discussed having a fence, that little corner, no, the other side, that little corner, right there, that's 10 foot. I know we were having a discussion, we thought for some reason, in one section of the ordinance, it says that it's 25, but in the ARD section specifically, it says it's 10.
Yeah.
Mhm.
The AR
Came back and looked at it.
supersedes it, because it's specific to the AR.
But abutting residential properties though.
Yeah,
In the AR,
it's 10 feet.
It's 10 feet.
Oh, that's awesome.
He needs to be-
Everybody's happy?
He needs to be 70
Are you
feet
happy?
back from the building.
Then you back from the residential building, that's
well, no,
correct.
yeah, the two buildings have to have a 70-foot span between them. But other than that, from the property line, it's 10 feet.
So
You can keep it.
this has to be 70 feet from a residential structure.
Correct,
Actually,
in
I-
either direction.
Originally I did, but.
Yep.
Yeah, yeah, good.
Yeah, both from the new road and the
Yep.
one that's on
Yeah.
Old Alfred. And I thought you made that quite easily.
Yeah.
But that was the one thing that I wanted to point out. I guess you're gonna have some discussion about a fence and
Well,
trees
I
and
guess I'm
stuff.
trying to figure out, it's been so long with this application, are we gonna determine it's complete again and schedule a public hearing? Is that where we're at right now? Been such a long time, I don't even
We
remember
need-
anymore.
we need to know what's going to happen in regards to the landscaping. Is that going to be a fence? Is that going to be trees? Is it a combination? Are you going to reach some kind of compromise with?
Right now, all I wanna do is get the application determined complete and schedule the public hearing. If that's where you're
If
going.
we determine that the application is complete
It
with a
is-
fence,
It is complete,
you're gonna have to amend the application if you take the fence out.
of course.
And
I don't wanna waste 2 more weeks to get in front of the board and decide the application is complete, just because we're gonna come up in agreement with us and the neighbors to change the buffer in this line. I think that's something we can do, we can resubmit that in the future. I don't wanna lose another month of the
Okay.
applicant's time. So, I wanna move this thing forward, fastest and most economical way we can. So, we talked about with the applicant, and the owner is very willing to talk to the applicant, remove this stockade fence, come up with some landscaping that we're both agreeable to, and for that, he will drill a new well for her. If for some reason they can't agree on the landscaping plan, then we're gonna basically stay with the fence, and I'm gonna add some landscaping up against the fence, cause I did agree to soften that fence up so it doesn't look like a jail or a jail yard or jail. So, if we can't agree, then we're gonna throw a little bit more landscaping along that fence line to soften that up. But hopefully, we can agree, and we'll come back with a plan that we both agree on, and that plan will show that we're gonna drill a new well. But right now, I don't wanna take any more of his time, I wanna move this application forward so we can start construction.
Okay.
So whatever does that, that's what I wanna do.
You're building a fence.
It would be an amendment to that point, yes.
not an amendment, you're calling the application complete, there's no reason why.
Well, no,
No.
when you
If it
come
was
back to
approved.
put the, if we approve it this way, and you come back to put the fence in, you'll have to have an amendment to the plan.
No, I think he's going to put the fence in, that is the
Right.
plan.
But he's talking about entering into an agreement with the abutter that the fence would come down, he'd do a little more landscaping, and in exchange for taking the fence down, a well would be dug.
Right, but my sense was that that was really a hypothetical, and
Yeah,
that right
hopefully we
now,
can
Yeah.
agree.
right now, he's gonna
Right.
do the fence
that's
and
what
call it a
Paul's-
day.
Yeah,
Correct.
Right,
And
hopefully we
all
can
we're,
agree.
all we're saying is that if we vote on it with the fence, if they reach an agreement later on, we're gonna have to amend
Right.
the plan.
But you know
Oh,
that,
wait,
Paul,
wait,
right?
wait.
We can't give it to you
Are
both
you
ways,
voting to approve the application?
to deem
this
the
evening?
application complete.
Oh, well, it's just complete, that doesn't
Right.
mean it's, you can deem an application
Set in
complete,
stone.
and I can come back and change landscaping. You can deem an application complete, and I came back and revise things, it doesn't mean it's still complete. I can still
Oh,
come
that's a-
back and change it.
You got 30 days. Remember?
I thought you made it 60 days.
It is, but it hasn't even changed yet.
That's right. Hasn't been changed, so you'll make it a 30-day.
Yes, the
Yeah,
planning,
we can certainly come to agree within 30 days and get it back on the agenda, or, yes.
Okay.
Alright.
We have everything that we need to determine completeness on the application. Does anybody have any questions for the applicant?
Yeah, I do.
Hey.
Discharge.
Yeah.
Pond. Where's that stream going? There's a drainage there, it's kind of unclear where it's going.
This is, you didn't see the,
I saw,
corner?
I saw all sorts of stuff out there.
I didn't, what, I don't even know where you're talking, the stream,
Yeah, is that a stream back there?
off the property,
Yeah.
I didn't even go look at it.
I thought it just sort of seeped.
I can't,
It looks like it's.
No, it's
but,
some
There's-
sort of a
there's a
channel
well.
down
Yeah.
there, through there.
That's why I was
Yeah.
asking.
But I think that's what Ted's question was, is just where does that,
Where's it going?
where's
you
that
wanna
end up going?
show that,
Yeah, it seems to stop. When I go out there, it seems
Yeah.
to just, it doesn't go any further.
The question is, we're gonna be discharging, not a lot, but we're gonna be discharging, that's a control structure there, so we're gonna be discharging into that stream. Just wanna find out how we're gonna do that, where that stream's going. That was the question I had from our sidewalk tonight.
or you mean just make sure that I'm not within 75 feet of it for discharge? You're not talking about quality here,
Of course I'm talking about quality.
so you're talking about a wet pond,
No, I'm not talking about what,
this is a wet pond,
yeah, it is, yeah, right, yeah.
it's acting like a wet pond,
It's acting like a wet pond right now.
absolutely,
Yeah.
for water quality, so I guess that's.
So you gotta take out all the buckets first.
So, another question is, so I'll look at that stream.
Yeah.
Paul.
Yeah.
Quick question. You just went through with another client, how they classified the word stream. You, following that definition is all I'm gonna referring to.
Yeah.
Of course.
For clarity, because beforehand, what we used to call a stream wasn't a stream. Then they came back with a new clarity word of definition. So I'm just using that as a reference point.
No problem, I'll take a look at that. I didn't see that being an issue, but I will look at it.
Anything else for the applicant? Need a motion to deem it complete.
I'll move. I'll second.
Motion been made and seconded to deem the application complete. Any discussion?
Can I ask one question? If this is complete, we can still discuss and there'll be a public hearing so we can voice
Yes.
concerns and stuff?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Sorry.
Okay,
So public hearings for June
June 13th.
13th.
June 13th, public hearing.
Thank you.
We'll have to formalize it.
Yeah, well, I'm
All
just
all
trying
those
to-
in favor of deeming
Yay.
the application complete? It is unanimous. Now we need a motion for the public hearing.
13th,
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to have a public hearing on June 13th. Any discussion? All those in favor?
aye.
Aye.
It is unanimous.
Thank you.
We'll see you on the 13th.
Who seconded the public hearing?
Jamie. New applications, Moto Land, Classic Cars, a major conditional use permit application, a request to construct an additional 13 parking spaces and a tour bus parking area on both the applicant's parcel and an adjacent property, tax map 2, lot 1A, in support of the conversion of the 9,900 square foot public auto showroom into an auto museum on a 4.9 plus or minus acre site located at 2564 Portland Road, tax map 2, lot 1 in the BI district. Motorland LLC is the owner and applicant of tax map 2, lot 1. EMP Properties is owner of tax map 2, lot 1A. Sandra Gay Esquire is the applicant's agent, and standing in for Sandra is...
Yes, it's Amy McNally, also from Woodman, and thank you for that. And with me, Mr. Gavin and Mr. Sendivers, who's a member of the LLC. So we have currently pending the site plan review application with regard to parking. As originally submitted, it proposed a development of a parking area and an adjacent parcel of land. We are now requesting to amend that application. We have a new plan. Mr. Gadbois can, I will defer to him on the details of that plan, but that plan contains all the necessary 41 parking spots for the museum in the original plan that was approved back in April of 2018. So it's actually more desirable to have it all already there. There's no construction required, no easement required, no encroaching on other land required. So we are seeking to amend our application to be consistent with the plan that we have in front of the board right now with Mr. Gadbois. And again, I would defer to him for those details as to how this parking plan is consistent with the ordinance and has all the necessary spaces.
Thank you. Motorland basically decided that to go forward with the original application, they're gonna spend quite a bit of money to go forward with that. They have to deal with lighting, because lighting's an issue, parking lot lighting. It's quite an expense just for adding lighting, basically, it's a huge expense in itself. Reconstructing the entrance, and then doing that type of work, and they're not really sure of their long-term goals as to what's really gonna be used, best utilization for that property. Maybe the best utilization is, who knows, a small building, I don't know. So they don't wanna, so what they wanna do is they're trying to downsize the project, not spending or using the other property, to take away some of this display area, because right now this was the entire display area. They wanna reduce the display area, which they're fine with. Add 13 parking spaces, which we need for the museum use, we need 13 extra spaces for that use. Actually, the museum use is, actually 18 spaces, but totals up to 41 spaces, so it's 18 just for the museum. So we developed a plan where, obviously they'll come in, we have the existing parking spaces here, which are customer parking spaces, museum parking spaces, call them whatever you want. The first and most useful ones on the left. Quite frankly, was easily filled up with all signage, additional parking in the rear, so the ability to come back in here, so that all strike. We'll have some wheel stops, will stop the cars from going into the display area, and naturally we're gonna park an additional 15 spaces to make up the 41 spaces required by the ordinance. Granted, it's gonna be a little tight getting cars into the display area, but they feel they can do it, they do all their own negotiation. Quite frankly, sometimes they have hand trucks to move the cars around. They have 13 feet here, which they can drive in and drive out, and they also have this 9-foot space here, actually it's 12 feet from curb to curb, where they can get in and get out and move their cars around for display, and they feel that they can adequately handle that just on those 2 little entrances to the display area.
So once the vehicles are in the display
They
area,
don't get
it'll be
moved too
pretty
often.
stagnant?
Yes.
Hopefully not too stagnant, because we need to sell them.
Okay, so they will, all right, so auto sales will still be a big part of the business.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's the business.
So it's
In
not,
fact,
it's not transitioning to a museum.
the goal is it's a showroom and a museum
Okay.
together. We
Alright.
want to be able to charge admission, which I
Yeah.
understand is where we needed the museum, for visitors who want to come and see. And then we would curate
Okay.
and set it up with that, but the cars that are in there are for sale.
But display for, okay,
Yeah.
all right.
And so Tim assures us that he has no problems giving an idea of those 2 little, those entrances in order to take a vehicle out for somebody to test drive, I assume.
Well, yeah, we would envision that the
access point in the back would be the primary one, because that's an employee only, if somebody's interested in a test drive, an employee goes and brings the car out for them to do.
Yeah.
The center one that you referenced, Paul, we really see as kind of a walkway for
Okay.
pedestrians to be
So
able
you
to
won't
come
be
in.
using that at all?
No,
Cause you could, I bet your car could go through there, but, yeah.
yeah, just
Okay.
because we see that as, that's the primary pedestrian
Yeah.
walkway to get into the display area to look
Right.
at the cars. We actually like it kind of tucked in the corner in the back, so it doesn't look like a space that a visitor might just mistake for being able to.
Paul, you remember how large vintage cars were?
Excuse me?
Do you remember how large vintage cars
Oh,
were?
they're pretty large. I think they can probably fit into a 9-foot door. So, yeah.
Paul, where do the buses go in and
Oh.
out, and where do they wait for the patrons to, get back on and?
I might defer to Tim on that real quickly, if you, when we
Well,
talk
well,
about
well,
buses.
again, we have no plans to have bus tours. We've never had bus tours there. I know there was some concern that there was, as we talked about a couple of years ago, we had an unscheduled, unannounced, uninvited tour bus, one of the groups going down to Dock Square for the day. From our side, even talking with the Chamber of Commerce, bus tours just don't align with our business, even a museum. We're a small staff, we have 8 employees, we can't handle a big group, they don't spend money on, that's not where we get our revenue from.
Yeah, so I think what we're talking about a bus that's not invited, that just says, oh, let's just pull over here and see what's going on. I think even if we had dedicated bus parking, unless you had some signs, Motorland bus parking, second entrance, have 3 or 4, these buses aren't gonna know that they're gonna turn into that parking lot and park here unless Motorland invites them. Motorland shows, it's something they do on a monthly basis, so they get accustomed to saying, oh, this is where we gotta go, we're gonna pull into this parking lot, we're gonna park our bus, and we're gonna let the people go out. Again, if for some reason a bus wants to visit the site, then there's no reason why the bus can't come and park right here and leave. Curb cuts are big enough. This is no parking, they can get in, park that way, and the bus can leave. But he doesn't anticipate, or even seeking any bus tours for this property. So,
We'll occasionally have some school groups that will come, they ask at our request, but that tends to be smaller groups, not big yellow school bus coming in as well. So I think what Paul had suggested was that, if they came in the first entrance and did like a little semicircle and would let people or students off there, and then they can pull out and
go drive around town. But I mean, they don't use, and in buses, in part of the ordinance, we're not required to provide bus parking for every project going on in the city.
No, the only reason we did that is because you had proposed bus parking there.
But I think that was an issue that we brought up, because there was one bus that's supposedly parked on the side of the road. Tim went out of his way to put signs on here, no parking whatsoever. Was that one bus that said, oh, I think we'll stop here and David get out.
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
But Paul, the other thing is,
so,
we didn't have a museum then.
Yeah, but we're not trying to meet, we're not getting bus clients out for the museum. It's not bus clientele.
We didn't have a museum there.
You don't think
before.
you'll get a bunch of people that wanna look at an $8 million car?
It was 1.4, wasn't it?
$8 million according to the newspaper,
Oh, is that right?
8.1.
Oh, good, sell it.
never heard that. What newspaper was that?
The Portland Press Herald, they
Sell
reported
it.
it's $8.1 million.
1.8, sorry.
Yeah.
It's the gold wing
It was-
that
it
he
was-
left in your driveway.
Oh, no, that's the
I think people are driving buses aren't gonna be buying a $1.8 million car.
Oh, it's just because the trolley museum gets so many buses.
They do?
Yes, it's cuckoo how many
But
buses.
they have rides, it's a deal, they go ride the trolley museum. I mean,
So,
it's not the same thing.
That's true. He's not gonna take me for a ride
Yeah,
in
my
that deuce.
my grandkid, he might be interested, but if you're going for a trolley ride, that's a whole different story. Really.
Yeah, and our business, while we're looking to add the museum, our core business remains, we're an auto dealer. You know, our revenue comes from selling cars and servicing cars.
So you're gonna reduce the
Display
parking
area.
for auto sales.
Yes, because the cars will be now moving inside to the showroom, which is to our benefit anyhow, with the old cars. It's a, you know, it's a blessing and a curse. When they're outside on the display lot, people see them, they come in and they buy them. But for our older cars, it's not good to leave them exposed to the weather. So we see them moving inside, so that's why it's that kind of museum showroom hybrid space.
How does that, Tim, just a question, how does that work? I mean, if I wanna just look at your collection, and I'm not being facetious, but I pay the fee to go in, and then I say, hey, I really like that doozy you got over there. So you get a refund? Yeah, I mean.
Yeah,
Is that how that works?
Good question. Typically, and the types of cars that are in there, they're gonna be the higher level cars. And in our business, it's called a private treaty sale. So generally, they're scheduled appointments, or if somebody does come in and they're, you know, they just happen to be, you know, they're down from Montreal or from Boston for the weekend and they happen to stop by and they come in and we charge them, you know, we'll use our judgment, but if I've got a serious buyer, I'm not gonna make them pay admission.
Okay.
And part of this model too is there's a business, it's actually outside of Chicago, that kind of pioneered this concept. You know, there's, from a museum side, again, I don't know if the last time a new museum opened in the state of Maine. It's a hard hill to climb from scratch these days. At the same time, we have visitors who will come, even though we're a showroom, we're different than Weir's or Arundel Ford or Champion because of the cars that we have. So people have thought is this a museum? And so we'll get those casual visitors who have questions, and we want to be friendly and welcoming to build our brand and our reputation. So part of the museum and charging admission allows us to have some staffing just when we have those casual visitors who are coming in, who we know aren't going to buy anything, but you know, we don't want to be an unwelcoming place.
So where are we, Rich?
Well, the question is, do we need a sidewalk?
He's reducing it, not increasing it. We've been there often enough.
Yeah, I mean.
Yes,
that-
but the fact is, we have,
It's been our standard to do a sidewalk.
Yeah,
Correct.
That's the other side of the coin.
and the
I
other
mean,
thing
I-
is, we have seen different things along the way. One is show, and the other one is tell. And then it's also, is needed. So we have a picture of it physically for a sidewalk.
It's up to you, members of the board, do you wanna do a sidewalk?
In my opinion, it seems like the changes are confined to the existing display area. And, I mean, I don't see a large amount of value in the sidewalk. If they're not expanding beyond their existing, sort of limits of improvement.
There are a couple of board members that have not been on the sidewalk there.
That's true. We have at least two
Right.
that have not gone on sidewalks.
And I'm not doing it this weekend.
My eyes, no.
I'm a big fan because we've always done sidewalks on
Yeah, it's the other thing, we gotta get.
So the only real alteration is the reduction of the, area where they're gonna showcase the cars outside and a change to the parking lot. So the buildings are remaining unchanged.
And in fact, the parking lot is the parking lot. The display area required by the state of Maine Bureau of Motor Vehicle, I think we provided that document, is 5,000 square feet between indoor and outdoor. Simply by moving the new building at 9,900 square feet as a showroom, we meet all of the state requirements and then some for display area.
So you don't even need the,
We don't need, we could turn that
technically,
whole
the
area
outside
into a
space.
parking lot. And to be honest, until we put the island in, you know, as some of you have known, who've known us for a while, before we had the island and the parking, it was confusing on where to park. The new island has really made a dramatic difference. It's logical, it's right there. But that whole area is a parking lot and it always has been.
We need a motion one way or the other.
Okay, just to move along, I'll make a motion, we, schedule a sidewalk.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to schedule a site walk. When,
For the next meeting, 6 o'clock.
6 o'clock on the 13th of June,
I will not be here,
okay?
unfortunately.
Jens, are you gonna be here?
I believe so.
The motion has been made and seconded to have a site walk on the 13th of June at 6 P M.
Yeah, 30th. Yeah, why?
Yeah.
I'll be here on the 30th.
Yeah, it's still time.
Change it to the 30th?
Okay, make it to the 30th.
Do we have any other site walk on 30th?
No.
All right.
At 6 p.m.
Do we have, Fred, do we have any sidewalks scheduled for the 30th, as I recall? No. I don't think we do.
I don't think
I
so,
don't think that's.
because that was the night with all the new
Yeah.
public hearings and everything else, I don't think we had,
Fire chief after that.
huh?
We have the fire chief after the public hearings. So we are changing the site walk to May 30th, next Thursday at 6 P M. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Next item, American Iron and Metal, a major conditional use application, a determination of completeness, application for renewal of an expired conditional use permit for 43,000 square foot solid waste disposal facility and metal recycling yard located at a 22.9 acre parcel lot located at 2244 Portland Road, tax map 12, lot 9 in the GI district. American Iron and Metal is the owner, applicant, and CES is the applicant's agents. This is actually a new permit because the old one had been expired for more than a year. So we have everything from what I understand. We've got all of the information that we need. The question is a site walk. And then a determination of completeness.
They were never here. They weren't on the last one, right? Definitely.
Oh, yeah. Do you wanna do it?
Let's address the completeness.
Okay, let's address the completeness.
Just one more, you should do the sidewalk for the, in case there's
Yes.
something.
Oh, true, that's right, sorry.
Okay, so we'll schedule a sidewalk before the next meeting.
On the 30th?
The
Yeah, I
third-
would say
You
do
wanna
it on
do
the
the
30th
30th?
as well.
Want to do two?
Well, depending on,
We're only gonna have a half hour, if we do two of them, we'll have a half hour
Because-
for each one. And we'll have to boogie back there because the
And this one should
public
really
hearing
be
started at 7 o'clock.
through the
And this
chair,
should be
But that's
moving
on the
along, too.
13th though, right?
no,
No, we have public hearings on the 30th.
On the 30th.
through the chair,
Yeah, Marty.
depends on, the first sidewalk that we have, the 30th, is in a small parking lot, okay? this has a little larger area than a small parking lot, okay? Depending on how far we need to go, because I think if I remember last time, when they were present, is when they were getting ready to put in the pick and pull.
That's all gone away.
No, I understand that, but I'm just speaking of time along the way, and some people haven't been there before, so that it may take a little bit longer to observe than, a little parking lot.
I think it would be better to do it on the 13th
I
than
agree.
the 6th. Because I'm concerned about running out of time on the
That's-
30th and
that's-
having
that's
to
where I'm trying
run
to
through the
get at.
process.
You know,
So we need a motion for the 30th of May,
So moved.
the 13th of June.
Of June, yep.
Motion's been made for the 13th of June. Motion's been made and seconded for the 13th of June. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
time,
Six.
you said 6?
Six.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure I did.
Yeah, that's just. We still got daylight.
Yeah. I think
We'll
this-
have more of it
I
then.
think this site was the dubious distinction with me on the board of being the coldest
Yes.
sidewalk that I've ever been to since I've been on the board.
It was the dead of winter.
It's a cold day.
We did that, and we did Chip Vance's place too.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll see you on the 13th of June at 6 p.m.
Is that unanimous in favor?
Oh, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Great, thank you.
Unanimous, thank you.
So, when are you gonna complete this?
Probably that night, so we'll deem it complete and schedule a public hearing.
Thank you very much.
Item number 3, Morocco Enterprises LLC made a conditional use pre-application and subdivision amendment. It's a proposal to construct a 5,000 square foot commercial building with 5 leasable spaces, each on 2 approved subdivision lots in the Enterprise Drive Commercial Subdivision, tax map 12 lots 8E and 9, consisting of 1.46 acres, and tax map 12 lot 8E10, consisting of 1.58 acres in the BI district. The 2 sites will be serviced by a common driveway from Enterprise Drive. Morocco Enterprises LLC is the owner and applicant.
Hi, I'm Paul Gabois, I can fit the site plan here in front of you. This Paul Morocco's right here. If you have any questions from Paul, he's here also. Yeah, these are the last 2 lots in Enterprise Drive. So Paul bought them both. What he'd like to do is do rental units for like a contractor, I guess it's called contractor yard, is that what it would come under?
Yep.
It's a contractor yard 2, because it's more than 4 parking spaces or something to that effect. We gotta
I don't know
look
how
at
much
that.
gonna fit in there. It's a,
Yeah.
what, 1,000 square feet each
Yeah.
one of those?
Are these like a contractor condominium type thing?
He's gonna rent each of these units out, so that right now we have a 4 unit and a 4 unit, so it'll be 8 units that he'll rent out. Some person might want 2 of the units, I assume, and some person might want the whole building, but he intends to rent them out to contractors, trades.
But like outfitted with, so solely for storage or outfitted with, say, water and sewer to have a small office or?
Oh, no, water and sewer, correct, so they'll each have an individual office, but I should let Paul speak on that behalf. He's probably,
Yes, good evening, I'm a builder developer from Kennebunkport. So 2 of these bays will be for my son and myself. We run excavation in a home building company. So therefore, we'll be taking up 2 bays and we wanna lease out to other contractors, small contractors, roofers, siders, framers, whichever, home improvement contractors, to lease one of these bays. Each one will have a half bath and heat. So basically, just for them to set up a shop, place to put their equipment, because a lot of the ordinances now around town, they can't have, they're parking all their equipment, everything in the yard, so we give them a place for them to rent. Also, it, helps us to subsidize the properties.
Would you be allowing them to park heavy equipment on site, and if so, where?
We have our own heavy equipment, but if the other ones will have to be able to put them inside their unit. That'll be a requirement because it will take it up. We don't have enough space because of the non-permeable surface where I can't. Unfortunately, if one contractor wants to rent the whole building, then you'd be able to use the area, no problem, get heavy equipment, that'd be fine.
So, so it's 1,000 square feet per unit. So that doesn't give you a lot of room to park heavy equipment. So what is is it 10 by 100 or?
25,
By 50.
excuse me, go ahead. 25 by 50.
25 by 50?
Yep.
And are they, can you join them together?
Yes, it's gonna be an open building,
So
it's gonna be all open.
if you wanted 2 spaces,
You could have two
You
and
could
put up a
have two.
demising wall to separate 2 or 3 or 1, each for each.
and so are you gonna be able to drive in? If
Yes,
you wanna park your equipment?
14 by 14 foot overhead doors with a single man door
Okay.
on each of the front entrances. And there'll be a man door just going out the back, just for egress.
It's a smart
What's,
idea.
what is, interior height?
Interior height, we have 24 feet to top plate. We're gonna be doing a single pitch, one pitch, tin can building, if you will. Steel sides, basically 4 foot foundation, steel building up, tin can building.
Only reason I ask that is because if you got heavy equipment, if you had a dump truck, elevation for, the dump body.
We own triaxle and plus axle.
It'll fit.
Exactly. Yeah, it'll fit for 24 foot eve height.
Well, I,
the most important part.
Right.
well, yeah, okay. What size?
tin cans open up.
Yeah, that's the whole point, peel the top right off.
That's exactly right. No, you're right.
So, Paul, is there gonna be any outdoor storage?
That's a good question, I had that written down, one of my questions, so there's no outdoor storage?
No,
So I can say no to that.
So no material will be stored outside?
correct.
Of course, we'll have a dumpster, I assume, for each one, you
Yes.
know, when I come back with a dumpster.
Or a common dumpster for them to each contribute,
Okay.
one pad
Mine's
space.
good to have a common dumpster, but.
Depends on if they're sheet rockers. Sheet rocker can fill a dumpster real fast.
They won't be hauling it back there.
I'm just,
No, believe me, I'm a builder developer, I know all about dumpsters and 30 hours and 40 hours for demo, so,
So will tenants have access to the building 24/7?
yes.
Okay. And is there security there and lighting and things like that?
There'll be wall packs,
Yeah, we
wall
have,
packs for lighting.
It's a great idea.
I see you've got stormwater approval from DEP.
yeah, this project was approved back in 2004. And back then, we permitted these lots for DEP stormwater, but we made assumptions, because we had no clue, but we figured let's start with something. And lot 9, I don't know if lot 9 was permitted for 14,500 square feet. Lot 10 was permitted for 17,400 square feet, impervious for a total of 31,900. We are proposing right now 31,693, so we are coming below the DEP permitted amount. The only thing, you know, back in the days, we had a separate entrance, tried to make the crossings at the most narrowest place we could. We did get DEP permit, wetland fill permits for the project as well. We're proposing one entrance, and hopefully that's okay with the board. For one thing, it minimizes or maximizes our use of impervious area by having just one entrance or both. And it slightly reduces the wetland fill amount, but not by a whole lot. You know,
Will you have to amend, was there an NRPA permit associated with the existing, with the overall development?
back then it was a stormwater permit.
So you didn't have to permit your wetland impacts?
Oh, we did, yes.
So you had an
Oh, yeah,
NRPA
yes,
permit?
absolutely, yep.
So will you have to amend that?
No, because I'm not changing it. Well, I'm not increasing, I'm staying below the wetland fill amount.
Have you
Unless
confirmed that with the DEP?
Unless you think that because I'm moving it from these two to here.
Well, I mean, as I understand the
No.
DEP permitting, they've permitted a specific
Amount,
wetland impact.
Yes.
Well, no, I mean, as I understand, they've permitted a specific impact, so
Okay.
just me, I would suggest you confirm with
Sure.
them.
Yeah. I don't have a problem with that.
I mean,
Yeah,
You wouldn't expect it to be an issue, but.
No, that's fine.
Well, I remember in the original design, there was a central detention facility. How is that gonna work here?
It was basically all taken into consideration where these lots are all captured. I think these lots were left to just discharge, and the design point was lower, at the lowest section of the project. So the design point, we didn't increase the 25 stone depth. By adding a pond, obviously.
Right. So,
So these don't have to have any ponds, it was all, these were permitted during the stormwater permit process to include that amount of impervious area for those lots. And hydrocat calculations and model with EP permits showed that we didn't increase the 2040 hour event.
so where's the water going?
It goes down.
It's gonna go in the wetland
Yep,
and discharge across the street?
eventually, that was our design point, somewhere down by Route 1. Yep.
Paul, did we ever have a crossover on Enterprise Drive? Because
There is
this-
a pipe,
Okay,
That
well, the
catches some
reason
of
I'm
the
asking that is
Yeah.
because
there is.
this,
to catch some of the
this
ditch.
is on, this side, this particular side is down on Poolin and, the diesel place side of the road. Because everything else that has been developed is over on the other side of the road. So that's why, when you was listening to you say that the crossover or anything else, was there actually, I didn't remember a cross drain running possibly back and forth.
There is a culvert that catches some of the impervious area off Enterprise Drive to that detention pond. These lots, obviously, you're not gonna get the water
No,
flow.
no, because
Ain't going there.
you had difference
It comes
in
down
height,
and it goes towards Route 1, and that's how we model it.
you had difference in height and elevations.
Yeah.
I mean, cause that's what, like I said, was when Dr. Balbo was there. I mean, Phil, you know.
And so I'm hoping that this project's gonna be relatively straightforward, we won't have to deal with stormwater, is what I'm hoping. We can- all the other lots that we developed out there, it was, as a matter of fact, I did them all. So, we didn't have to deal with stormwater in the past for those lots, they were all approved by DEP. I'm hoping my client's gonna see the same results here, where as long as we stay within the impervious area that was approved back in 2004. Certainly, we'll get designs for septic and show the well and show utility and do a grading plan.
Yeah.
We're not, hopefully, we're not gonna be looking for a lighting plan, review, we're just putting wall packs. The wall packs probably send out 0.1 foot candles at 30 feet roughly.
Give me the spec on that.
Yeah, and assuming, these are gonna be low flow septic areas, we're gonna be way below any design standards for requiring nitrates. We didn't necessarily require them in the past, but I know it's a new board, so I'm just trying to make sure things that I'd like to know in advance, so we have to start moving in that direction to get those items, but, it's a pretty straightforward project.
What's your first floor elevation?
I haven't done that yet, Chad.
Okay.
I figured, for some reason, if you didn't like this combined entrance,
No, I like.
I'm gonna start all over again, so I can't really, I hate to design a project and come to the board and say,
I was just thinking if you had any ideas on what your first floor elevation.
no, I'm not yet, certainly, I wanna, pick it so I'm not doing any wetland filling. If there's a problem here, I may have to adjust my pavement, but I think I left enough room so I can put 2-to-1 slopes and not fill the wetlands right now for the sketch plan. So, yeah.
What's the length of your driveway?
What's that?
What is the length of your entrance?
This entrance here?
Yeah. I tried to go look at the map and it didn't really say how deep it
About
was.
315. He said it's 315 feet, well, that's the length of the property line, so I would say it's probably a, I don't know, 200.
Scale?
About 200. I can scale it, yeah. So
No, I was just wondering.
What about the width of the driveway?
I made it 24, 24 feet wide, 25.
So 2 cars or 2 trucks can easily
Yes.
pass it.
Depends on how wide you're,
And then my length, Marty, is 220 feet.
okay.
Why do you wanna know
It
that?
depends if it's, it depends on also too, it depends on how wide bed you got of equipment coming in and out, length and width of your road.
Two hundred and twenty feet.
Yeah.
One more, one more question. The applicant is anticipating to retain ownership in both lots?
Yes.
Correct.
Yeah, but they're not for sale.
Gentlemen, we need to schedule a sidewalk.
Don't say the third.
No, I was thinking, the 13th at 6:30, we're gonna be right up the street from this
Yeah,
guy's
that
land.
sounds good.
Well,
So
next
you're
question,
limiting yourself
Because
to
I
another
won't
half
be
an
here,
hour.
and I
Right.
won't see
You
it.
should start early.
Yeah, we would either.
You wanna
the
see
question,
It does, it's, sounds like
question
it's right
is,
up there.
how easy is it accessibility to get in
It's pretty rough.
that square?
Okay.
I mean, it's all
So,
wood,
yeah,
it's
you're
ledge. I mean,
It's dense.
It's not an ideal location, but.
You're not,
you know,
you're
we
gonna
can make it work, but-
need time to go hiking.
It's not the 13th, it's gonna be the 27th.
What about the 6th of June? We have a meeting
Oh, yeah.
with the Board of Selectmen that evening.
I mean, they coming with us?
No,
Well,
he's
you
saying
could- there's
before
two
the
of them, you
meeting.
can ask them.
Well, yeah, they wanna, and then we could
But
do a,
we have a meeting with them that evening.
Well, I can go on the sixth, I'll be here.
So if we did the 6th at 6 PM, would that work for everybody?
depending how deep you're going, turn it on this. We have been on some of these in the past, Enterprise Drive hikes,
Yep.
and it's all rock filled, ledge and everything else.
You can put the flags out first time.
Yeah,
If I may, excuse me, Paul, I walked it the other day. I get out of my truck just like this, and I was able to walk in one area which would be safe, even for our female board member, for her to be able to walk in, and an area to be able to go up and scale the back. Because it does basically, the land does go down a little bit, but then rises up and it goes around, so it is pretty good right there.
Is it pretty heavily forested back there?
No, it's not too bad.
Can't remember.
Yeah.
Be chivalrous, man, come on.
He will marry.
It's dangerous ground there.
Looked over there, I saw here, I saw
Get a
danger.
litter.
Susan will open that.
I saw danger.
Okay,
So, I mean,
I
it's
may not be available for that night.
Oh, geez, you're losing people.
Um,
You should have. board members as possible also.
Yep, you should.
So let me know what you decided. I can make it the sixth or 30th, any of them.
What about a Saturday?
Hey.
I hate Saturdays, but
Saturday, not in summer.
I wanna go fishing, that's why I hate Saturdays. Okay, we've gotta figure out some point to have a sidewalk.
So we're not doing it the sixth?
Well, I think it seems to me that we ought not do it on the night that we're doing it for the waste facility. That's
Yeah.
gonna be more involved. I think we should put it on the other night where it's a
That would be the,
faster proceeding.
that would be the 6th.
Not the same night for Motorland, that's two, or that's 30 Motorland, right?
13th
No, cause
is
we
Motorland.
would end up with the same time.
I'm just asking, 'cause you were right there.
So I think, yeah, we're looking at the 6th of June
Yeah?
at 6 PM.
I can do that.
I so move.
Motion has been made, is there a second?
as long as we're reminded,
Is
Motion has been made and
Yes, I'll second
seconded
it.
for the 6th of June at 6 PM.
Thank you.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
yeah.
Any opposed? It is unanimous.
Thank you.
Item number 4. A Joyful Noise Daycare Center, major conditional use pre-application and major subdivision pre-application. Is this one for you too, Paul?
Yes.
Thank you, board, thank you very much.
This is a proposal to construct a 5,000 square foot daycare center serving approximately 100 children and 14 plus or minus staff members on a proposed 120,000 square foot lot serviced by an existing private drive from Route 111 on tax map 4 lot 23 in the AR district. The project also includes a proposed 5-lot commercial subdivision. BDF Holding is the property owner and applicant, and Paul Gadboy is the applicant's agent. This is Paul Gedboy night.
Yeah, I know, it's
Okay.
a great night. Ben's not here because you know he's hiking the Appalachian Trail, right?
Oh, I did not know that.
So he's about 960 miles up the pike, so,
What, did he start down in Atlanta?
yeah.
He was gonna come home, but I guess he decided not to. But anyway, and then of course Dave is his father, and you guys know, met Dave. And Rachel, she's the one that's gonna be running or buying the proposed daycare center for the project. So,
You didn't join him, Dave?
I walked across the trail when I went to see him in
So
Tennessee.
you came walking in here, he was like, you're walking too fast. Like, slow down, Rachel, you're walking too fast. Just walking across the driveway. Sorry.
I'm not 21 anymore, you know.
so the first thing, right, when this got brought to my attention, of course, everybody would like to see the daycare go in because it's good for Ben and it's good for Rachel. But, you know, her goal is roughly 100 kids, for the daycare, so just doing some quick math, that's 400 vehicle trips per day. So, the ordinance, the street construction standards, 1.6.2 says, developments greater than 25 dwelling units or greater than 250 trips per day have to have a second entrance.
And so does the subdivision standards too.
Right. So, that is something that we're trying to ask the board to waive that or change that, or can we waive and can we change that? I guess the biggest question in front of us right now. Obviously, we're going to,
162,
obviously, we're gonna have a traffic engineer review the project. We're gonna upgrade the MDOT entrance permit because we're changing the use and we're changing the intensity. We're going to, traffic engineer, he can do whatever he's gotta do to talk to DOT to figure out just how that's gonna affect and how we're gonna get a permit, what type of permits we need. Do we need a mobility permit from DOT? We have the traffic engineer working on this right now, just doing some quick preliminary numbers to find out just what this is gonna trigger, for the project. Then we're gonna sit down with Ben and Rachel and discuss, how best to proceed, cause it's a $10,000 traffic study fee just to get this thing going in front of DOT, so. But the first thing is, is that something we can work with if we have, if we do a full build out and we use 100 children and then we try to make assumptions based on the size of the lots, because there are some statistics saying certain size lots would trigger so many trips per day, and try to do it for possibly the whole build out, and I'm being conservative back here with some larger lots, but that would just trigger more traffic per day because it could be a larger business in it. So we need to come up with that number, right? And so whatever that number is, at that point, we need to deal with DOT. So once we, and I guess we get the board's blessing that they're okay with whatever we come up with for counts, as long as we get a traffic entrance permit from DOT, the mobility permit that we need, and it doesn't reduce the road to a sea level or something, can we proceed? Or are we dead in the water because we have to have 2 entrances, or?
What's that section of the ordinance?
Which one?
1.6.2, I think, right?
I'm sorry, Paul, say it again.
1.6.2 in the street construction standards.
Oh, I haven't got it.
This street.
In subdivision, it's also 12.2B.
This is one of them.
Yeah, because we don't have the street construction.
Yeah, I must have missed it in subdivision, I thought I went through it.
This is where you're, B and B is.
It exists because we have an application in front of us that's mentioned it.
So new road,
Sorry, the streets.
That's why I'm just trying to give you a balance.
Apparently there's some sort of, you get a bonus if you have 55 as well. In case you're.
Okay, what is it?
Any street with an average ADT of 50 trips per day shall have at least 2 street connections
No,
leading
this
to
is here. This is,
existing public
this is
streets,
Phil's.
Street
This
shows
is-
an official map where streets.
This one, yeah.
An
Yeah.
approved
This
subdivision
here
plan which
is
were
where they
guarantees
didn't-
have been filed in
They were gonna use the joint road
I
at
don't-
one time,
Amended
it never came
June
about.
14, 2001.
What's the,
Based on the fact that it says you shall have, I don't think we can live it.
Yeah, well,
Is that in subdivision, Ted?
That is in
Yeah.
subdivision.
Yep.
and it-
On page 47.
And subdivision does not make a distinction, as we know right now, between residential or business. It's subdivision, period, and we have a subdivision.
I thought our discussion when Rachel was with me, that you would help us or change that ordinance
Could
or
be changed. There's three
to
options.
see if we could, that could be done, because
Yeah.
it
Well-
just didn't seem to make sense, I guess, but.
Well, there's three options. I mean, one is to amend the ordinance, amend the subdivision ordinance.
That takes, how much time would that take, actually?
Subdivision
Town
ordinance,
meeting.
piece of cake.
Oh, okay, that's what it
Not
was.
the subdivision.
No, subdivision is,
That's us.
Oh,
subdivision does not go to town.
oh, okay.
Same district.
So, that's,
Yeah.
but then we have the street construction.
Yes, it is.
Right.
If it's a subdivision ordinance, it's a subdivision street,
Yes.
then that's standard for apply.
This way here.
So, option number, well, the three options that I identified are, one, change the ordinance to subdivision ordinance.
And right up and through here.
Option number two is create the second means of egress.
Can I ask one
Which we
point of clarification, Ted?
You and I talked about one, right?
Yeah, I was
Quick
trying to
reference.
figure out.
Oh, absolutely.
Yes.
So the issue we're grappling with is whether a second entrance onto 111 would be necessary?
Right.
Different ways in.
Is there,
His road coming into.
what if there were to be a loop created around the building?
Say that again, I'm sorry.
Would that accomplish the purposes of
Coming
cost
back?
effectively?
No,
No,
they
the
get
other way,
stuck in
Paul.
here.
Oh,
Coming around, yeah.
that way.
yeah, it won't matter.
No, it won't,
I mean, we essentially have a loop here at cul-de-sac.
yeah. It's-
I mean,
The problem is it's
It's
two,
coming back
two
out here.
connections to existing town roads.
yeah,
Or state roads.
problem is right here.
So that would have to be made as a town
We'd have to
road.
come back,
That's,
we'd have to come
that's
back
another way
here.
to do it, is to make it a town road, because frankly speaking, that's how we did it on Enterprise. Or excuse me, on
Right.
Technology Drive.
Oh, make this a town road?
Yeah,
Well, that's guaranteed that's gonna be a town road. We're not gonna be putting down 5 inches of pavement and not requesting the town to take it over.
But you,
But
yeah,
it's
Well,
a
but-
construction
question of
stance is
timing. It's
huge.
a question of timing.
What- hold on.
I mean,
Is
construction
that,
standards
is that
are-
another way to skin the cat?
That's one way to skin the cat, but it would have to be built and accepted by the town before we can do that, and that's, I don't think that's necessarily in Rachel's timeframe.
Probably not.
Yeah.
Well, cause, you know, obviously, we have to build this road to the commercial standards.
Right.
We're not gonna get any waivers, and so we gotta offer it to the public, for the town to plow, cause why would we wanna build a road to commercial standards if we're not getting something back, like, okay, you're 4 inches of pavement instead of 5, or make it 24 feet instead of 30, you know, maybe private would be okay, but we don't have a private way option, we have to build this to those standards. So, obviously, we wanna offer it up for acceptance, cause eventually, doesn't have to be right off, but eventually, it would be offered up for acceptance. So you're saying if we keep it, we can't keep it private,
No.
right?
Well, you can keep it private, but, no, what I was
I mean,
saying is you go public with it, but that's not in your timeframe. So one would be to create that second loop through lot 2.
Right,
One would be to change the ordinance.
right.
Third would be,
I just have to say that I don't think this road is, I don't think they can afford to spend another 800 feet of road and gain no loss out of it. That's pretty much what happens, I mean,
well, they'll gain somewhat. They'll
you
gain,
know, maybe.
they'll lose a lot.
What if wouldn't that would obviate the
I mean,
cul-de-sac though, wouldn't it?
You could obviously
Yeah,
cul-de-sac.
it would,
Well,
that's right, it would
but
save a
you won't
little
you won't
bit,
get the
it
number
would
of
save
lots.
a little bit coming around the cul-de-sac.
You could.
It'll make the road pretty expensive for that phase 1. And I guess, you know,
Well, and then that,
I guess,
would it be,
gotta think
would
about
that
it, I
be
guess, now.
allowed per DOT?
Yeah.
You know, I think that would be the question I'd have. Is
Well, I guess
would
right-
DOT want a second entrance right out there in such a short proximity on the same lot?
Yeah, I don't
Well,
think
they
have
approved
that.
Ledgewood right next door.
Right, but isn't that a separate lot?
yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
But you're gonna have separate lots here too, I mean, this is gonna be a commercial subdivision.
Could you get out to Ledgecliff, and could you work that out with Phil?
if Ledge Cliff isn't built to commercial standards, it's kind of built to different standard. I think this,
However-
I think
Right
this section,
there,
no.
you're right
This
by
section
Alfred
is.
Road.
Actually,
I
that
think this
section
section
is,
is commercial.
because these are
net
two
commercial,
commercial,
no,
these are
yes.
two commercial lots.
Those
Yeah,
are
so you
commercial
could,
standards.
you're almost at
But
Alfred
still, when
Road.
I need them.
He's right there.
There he is.
Quiet, come look at the map, Bill.
Phil may not want to.
You guys are gonna
He's also a site guy, so.
It's good to me, no?
You guys are dancing again.
Because then you could go right out the cul-de-sac, if you can get on Ledge Cliff. And that would give you two.
I was there trying to think of
entrances.
trying to come out here, so we got two entrances for this project. I guess, I don't know, we have to all think about that.
There's a lot, there's a big hill there, there's a lot of plastic.
Cause
You know,
my first 400 feet is commercial.
yes, it is,
Right.
that's right.
So how far up does that take you, Paul?
Well, it
Are you
takes us
400 feet up? Would you
400
be up
feet's
far
up
enough
here.
to connect to the,
Yeah.
Yeah, well, it
cul-de-sac?
goes far enough to connect, but I just don't know if,
And then if you were to connect, it would be probably
I
right
think
there on
so.
that, where it separates the two lots.
yep.
Would make both of those lots a little bit smaller.
Yeah, it would be
And I think we have enough square footage, so it wouldn't interfere. That might be doable. DOT's gonna frown on an entrance here.
Oh, if you were here, right?
But it's so logical, because it's right near.
I don't know.
It would take them
I was
to
hoping
come
it
in.
amend the subdivision ordinance, I like that. Then I have options. You know, then I can talk to DOT and say, look, if we can make that work and everybody's happy, great. And I'm talking for full build out, because I wanna make sure it works for my client.
Would that connect the road between
But, I don't know.
Heavy Hammer and Ledgewood? Would that have to be a commercial,
Yes.
up to commercial standards as
It
well?
would,
Yeah,
but
but that's
it
about
would give you
200
the second
Yeah.
means of egress.
Right,
And-
right,
And
exactly.
how many feet do you think that is, Paul?
I think, you know, Tad's gonna be.
To Ledge Cliff. Right at the bottom of the
Yeah,
cul-de-sac?
right.
Yeah, it's less than.
Well, I think the issue with,
70 maybe.
if we look at changing the
Right,
ordinance, what's the number that we go with? Because you're looking at all of the other lots, and they're all gonna have something on there.
So I don't.
I don't have Marty's crystal ball, I can't tell you how many people are gonna be using
I
that
think,
road.
I think
Well,
the logic to amend it would not be the number of lots, but to potentially have an exclusion for roads that dump out onto either 111 or Route 1, that are inherently designed to convey a lot more traffic than a local road. That, I think the logic, probably, I wasn't on the board, but I can imagine the logic between, say that,
No, I said I wasn't either.
right,
think-
but I would
think that's-
imagine that logic is to not overload one of the local
Local
streets
roads,
with a large amount of traffic. 1 and 111 aren't the typical Arundel local street.
Yeah, they're not the arterial roads.
They're state highways.
Right.
So, yeah, cause it does say you can't drop them on two entrances on an arterial road. So, but I like that, that's an
Well,
interesting.
that does make sense. If we go up and down just Route 111, we look at Biddeford Crossing area, and we have, all right, some of them have two means of egress, but that's actually for more convenience than it is because of the traffic load. It does split the traffic load. If we look at Home
Depot
Depot in
doesn't.
Holt, that's a one access.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's-
it's
that's
a
a-
pain in the neck.
We don't.
Home Depot, Lowe's, Applebee's.
Yeah.
Well, that's
I like that
down,
thought, though. I hadn't-
that's down there. We
I
can
hadn't
say
thought
that.
would be
Yeah,
cool.
right, okay.
it's over the border.
But, Walmart's got two, shopping center up, the old shopping center's got one.
Well, I think the only reason Walmart has two is because there's a credit union back there. They have, and there was, whatever that restaurant was that they couldn't keep filled.
Well, I
and
mean,
still
it's
can't
just it was
keep filled.
bound by,
I don't know what it was.
Commercial demand is different than
Yeah.
residential demand. If it were going to an artery, a state artery, then that would be a way that would make a difference.
So
And it
it was
wouldn't
fun, but
overload
it had that crazy.
our undersized roads. I mean, let's face it, some of our collectors and our arterials here are, as it's often said, are actually of lesser dimension and construction than the actual roads that are dumping onto.
So
that's a
can I
discussion
ask-
we're gonna have to have.
That 250 currently, is that based on dumping onto a local road and not a state highway? Is that what that comes?
That's
it's
what
based
we're
on
arguing.
any, as it's written in the ordinance, as I understand it, it's based on any road.
Okay.
That's correct.
Is there's no
But we could
distinguish-
amend it potentially we have the means to amend it potentially with this board.
Now, the board can amend the subdivision ordinance,
No.
can they touch the street ordinance?
No.
Cause that language is in the street ordinance also.
So, but we're not controlling the streets.
Right.
That would
That
have
would
to
have to go in front of, selectmen,
No, that would,
or whatever.
wouldn't that fall
I don't know.
underneath
I thought
the,
that was selectmen.
street designs and everything else, and I would have to be re-amended to that street design committee?
be a couple words, be for residential, or make that an amendment, make a reference back to the subdivision. We would be making a distinction here between
Yes, I'm gonna,
the commercial and residential
Correct.
subdivisions.
but also too with the number of stops where they're playing along 111 there, where they're widening the road. Where you're both spilling out, even with that cut, if you came this way, vice versa, you're going south, but to try to get across to, I mean, going north and south, traffic-wise.
Coming out of my property,
Yeah,
going north is no problem towards Bedford.
yeah,
South, we'd wind up with at least 3 lanes coming into the property, one for south, one for north, and one to enter the property.
I'm just,
Yeah, no, I hear you.
How's that change they're doing on 111 gonna affect you, do you know?
Oh, it's gonna be night and day, it's gonna be wonderful. Because now we can take a left and stay in that center lane until the passing traffic gives us a break. You know,
no, but you see, you're bigger. Now, you're bigger, so you can turn around and crowd that line.
I'm not talking my coach, I'm talking her parents.
No, I'm just talking
Never
bigger trucks coming that way. You know,
So what do you,
So,
how long do you think, personally, I just assume make the amendment to the subdivision. That is the quickest.
Yeah.
But it also
It needs
involves
to be
But
done
it-
the
through.
street
It
standards.
involves the street standards, and that's gonna require
That's special town meeting.
a special town meeting, and I don't know if the selectmen are gonna
Well-
wanna go down that road.
before we do that, till we have to find out how the interconnection will work or not. Because,
That's the other,
I mean,
if the interconnection
and we
works-
can talk, but if they don't have everything worked out, we're just spinning our wheels.
well, if the interconnection works, that's going to prove to be a much faster
I guess, you know,
way of doing it.
the thing is, once the traffic guy does his thing, and obviously, if this option, you know, is just so much better and it's the only way we can make it work, then we may have to go with a second engine, I don't know,
Who's doing the work?
use the Bill
Bill
Bray.
Bray?
So when he comes back, I have no idea what's gonna be, who knows, you know, they may say put a light up, I don't know, we're gonna say, well, forget it, we'll do it, maybe we should look at the second entrance option, we don't know yet. So those are the things we really gotta get Bill Bray going, give us the rough numbers, but, so, you know, we want the best solution, I'm sure the planning board wants the best solution, once Bill does his homework, but if Bill does come up and that we can make that work for one entrance, obviously, that would be great, but now we gotta amend the street ordinance, so how long is that gonna take to go public, how long could that take? I know, you know, everybody wants to get in, and, you know, probably by September first, and,
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
but-
not about, it's not just about me and the business, but I
yeah,
have 50 families that will be without child.
yeah,
Right.
so,
So I'm trying to.
I'm trying to be realistic to Rachel so that we don't get caught up and not
Well,
get,
your
make it
first,
work.
well, Bill's gonna have to come up with that.
Initial, he's got the
Initially,
initial.
you gotta find out whether
What it actually is.
DOT is gonna bark at this, whether they're gonna accept it. I mean, we could make all these plans and DOT's gonna base, as we talked about earlier, DOT could just sink this whole thing and say, you need signalization, we're not gonna let you do it.
It's possible, we don't know, alright?
Let me ask you this. Any street with an average daily traffic of 250 trips per day or more should have at least 2 connections. That would make it a waivable
Doesn't
The
say
language
must
in
have.
here isn't the issue, I'm not concerned about the language, we're talking about timing and logistics.
Yeah, in other words, so you guys can move
But,
it.
my thought is that if this said something other than shall,
Right,
it's a waivable issue.
right.
But, I don't, yeah, but it doesn't, so we have to change this anyway.
That's correct.
So,
But
but
we
if
could
you
do
were,
that.
if you were to make something a little better, than said for commercial, you know, uses that empty onto, discharge onto a state arterial, this does not apply.
That,
Then it's really the state arterial that dictates whether or not you can do it.
that would
In
not
the- in the
require
s-
a change in the street.
In the street design,
It
it
require change
does
in the
use
street
the,
too.
and in the street design, it does use the term shall.
It's
Does it?
shall, and
Okay.
will.
Yeah.
So,
Then we
then we would have,
kinda
yes,
stuck.
So
Oh.
your fastest way to get this moving is to see whether or not you can go
The
that
second
way.
entrance, you mean, right?
Yeah.
Of course, the other,
Or someplace else, maybe there's another
Oh.
second entrance someplace.
okay, it says 250 or more, but we still have other lots that are not developed as yet, okay?
Yeah, no, we're gonna assume some build out for the whole project.
Well, I'm just saying, there are other lots that are not developed yet,
That's right.
okay? Both on this side and also on even Phil's side, okay, per se. But the fact is, if your lots are expanding, we don't know how much more increased traffic there will be.
I think that as you do site plans for each one of these lots, you may have to keep upgrading your traffic and say, you know, now your original assumption was, I don't know, 600 trips per day, and now you're up to over 600, and you know, how does that affect, now that that trigger a light, who knows, you know what I mean?
No,
Eventually-
hey,
Yeah, that's,
it
I mean,
won't,
that's a
it
deep.
won't
I
because
just
it
go
took
with
DOT 33 years just to do the corner there, when we were on sidewalk tonight.
That's right. We just wanna have some realistic numbers so that, I mean, we don't want a daycare going in here if that shoots my client in the foot for all the rest of his lots, obviously. 'Cause if that, what really ruins this whole subdivision, we're gonna talk about it. We're hoping that traffic will come back and everybody's happy, but we won't know until he comes back.
well,
Kind of between a rock and a hard place. And
Well, I guess
we didn't
the-
get that answer.
Tonight, you know, I just thought, because we've had me with Tad, I said, well, look, the biggest thing, my concern right now is that 250, so if that's not doable, then I have to get a second entrance.
well, that's, I think that, and that's something the planning board can make a decision whether they'd be willing to consider that regulatory option.
But it's a slower, it's a
Well, it's
slower
a
vehicle,
slower one,
yeah.
good
Sure.
solution.
Any idea how much slower?
But I think it's,
My crystal
you
ball
know,
ain't
this
shining.
is the project that probably is, you know, to me is triggering this change of thought.
Needs to happen,
That,
yeah.
that likely, you know, whether it's this one or whether it's one on Route 1 or, you know, any number of different scenarios could play out where we're gonna be faced with this. So use this as the impetus to make a beneficial change.
Yeah, I can't speak for the board, but I would have no problem changing the language
Right.
that is in the ordinance.
Right.
Because it is a little bit restrictive.
Well, and especially
And
where,
this
you know,
points it out.
if they're dumping onto Route 1 or 111, the DOT is gonna have a huge say on a large development of what happens with, off-site improvements.
Yeah, they will. They're really the controlling factor more than
Yeah.
anything.
Well, that's kinda what I thought,
Right,
but I still was hung up at the 250, and I said, well, if we can't get past the 250,
Sounds like we can get past the 250.
Yeah.
but
Yeah, I
now,
think we can get past the 250, it just becomes a question of how.
Right,
And
right,
what
right, and
method
when,
is
in the most effective way. My question is just to make it really simple, she's got a time frame for, like, she just said 50+ families.
Right.
If this all comes together, I can have a building out for her in 4 weeks. You know, if this all comes together, could the permitting process and the building potentially go up and that finishes before she opens? So kinda, I'm building the building simultaneously as, and the build out for the building simultaneously as we're getting the road in.
Well, we could always make a recommendation to the Board of Selectmen to give them the change in the construction,
Yeah,
the street design.
yeah, I mean, I don't really see that.
It's
Your,
just-
your issue there is tougher, because you were talking about some real logistical balancing here.
Yeah.
I mean, we're really talking about.
I mean, yeah, and that's why we want to get the traffic input back from the guy, we're gonna sit down and.
Yeah, that's gonna be the one.
That's the linchpin.
And
I
then
think
my
we
other
talked about it.
concern is,
Yeah.
obviously, you know, this is gonna be built to the construction standards for commercial lot, you know, whether I build this commercial standard, they wanna call it driveway, we'll figure out the cost when we get to it, but, you know, this obviously, we're gonna come out here for the daycare essentially, come in and go back around, so whether we do that commercial standard, just call it driveway, who knows?
You
But-
do it as a driveway, but. yeah.
But, you know, I mean, we may build it to the standards just because there. My question is, this road's gonna cost, you know, it's like, I think the length of it,
We can arm wrestle Phil over that though.
it's huge. It's huge money, but my question is, can he get a permit to start building before that road is built? And how, do we have a mechanism to do that? Can we, cause right now, this road is built, you know, to here, right?
Right.
He's using it, so we can start building it, we don't need it for access, for building. Obviously, we realize that before she moves in, we have to have probably base pavement in, and I guess those questions, or if he puts up 110% of the surety bond,
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
can
I
we,
think we work.
can we start construction before the road base pavement's done? Some communities say, you know, you want base pavement in before you, or base gravel in before you, but.
You start putting up your building before you had your road completed?
You know, it was his.
Yeah, I had a
his-
temporary road to put my
Yeah,
building up.
exactly.
His
Yeah,
was a
there
driveway though, she didn't need frontage on a road.
Yeah, but it's
so-
still gonna be a
Frontage, but it's
driveway to
still-
her building
Right.
and.
So,
just-
so we can start, you know, good.
We can work something out.
Okay, good.
Well,
Cause that might, you know, obviously, they can build the road and start construction at the same time.
so what I was gonna say is, I think that she's performing an important, you know, the business that she's gonna establish in that spot is actually an important addition from what I understand to the community. And the question is, do kids come and go at different hours?
Yeah.
So, I mean, even if you had a professional, I don't wanna say crossing guard, cause people aren't actually crossing, but, you know, somebody to actually direct traffic, that, you know, somebody's there, that a professional, you know, either a policeman or a traffic monitor
Are you
or
looking for a CO before you finish the road?
so, you know, you can do things
No,
kind
I
of.
don't think so.
Yeah, no, I'm not asking for that.
No.
Yeah,
I just want
don't think
the-
that's really an issue.
I think that when they start constructing the road, they can start the building.
Yeah,
that's all.
no,
Maybe-
that's, yeah, we've done
one
that.
question.
before. That's not an issue.
To the chair,
Yeah, Marty.
question. Are we having school buses in and out of there?
It's all carpools.
It's.
Oh, that, you understand what I'm thinking of?
I mean, no.
Number
no
of
buses.
trips, but also too at the same time, where you have different daycares or anything else, that turn out the kids would be going,
Yeah, I currently don't do aftercare or before care.
well, you
Yeah.
see where how I'm
Right.
thinking, I mean, you know, just traffic wise. And possibly then at the same time, how many towns would that be affecting?
Yeah, because it's Arundel, I
just-
don't have a lot of I have, you know, currently I have mostly Kennebunk families that I'm hoping will move with me. Arundel, I think, I'm going to stick with just the childcare, you know,
Yeah.
infant 6 weeks to 5 years. And so we'll just do all-day childcare, Monday through Friday, and then when they go off to school, they go off to school. and
Yeah,
stay
okay,
after
but that was
school
just
there.
a
Yeah.
thought that I was
Yeah.
listening and thinking of traffic
No, that's a
flow.
good one, but yeah, we currently don't deal with any buses at all.
Okay, so
Yeah.
I think at this point, we need to wait to hear back from Paul.
And
So
DOT.
we can start.
And
discussions.
Well, I think, you know,
Well, he needs to get from DOT.
well, I think if the board feels that their ordinance is really obsolete, not correct, I would like for you to move forward to
Oh,
change
no,
it.
I'm saying we can still move forward.
Yeah, I mean, like to
From
move
that point of
forward
view,
in the most
But
economical,
DOT
efficient
may say
way.
you have to have two.
Absolutely,
exits.
no, we understand that.
And that's a potential one going into Ledgewood.
Right.
Would deem a second entrance,
Yeah.
obviously, some logistics have to be
If you
worked out.
can work that out with
Right.
Phil, from our perspective, the Ledgewood section is a commercial road, built to town standards, it's a town road, yeah, it
Right.
qualifies. It
Right.
gives you the
It doesn't
two.
even have to be a town road, you know, actually, from the think of it.
But it is,
Just
I mean,
discharge it
that,
onto a
that
town
is,
road.
Yeah.
Discharged onto a state road in this case.
Right.
It shall have at least 2 street connections leading to existing public streets. So it would have to, yeah,
Yeah.
Phil's section may not have to be commercial because it leads out to.
But it is,
It is anyway.
Yeah,
Right,
that's just a plus.
2 or 4?
or
That was 4.
streets on which are
The
approved
first two lots
subdivision.
are commercial,
Oh, okay.
then after the
Yeah,
second
but
lot,
I mean, it fits the criteria.
Building it, and we can bang that out. If the board's amenable to that, staff can bang that out.
Well, yeah, could be, just in case, it comes back and we say, wow, boy, look, we don't need the second entrance, one entrance work and everybody's happy. And then I want to be at the third, fourth, 2 months from now saying, oh, now we need to change the ordinance. So if we could work on that, but you think it's maybe
But I think,
deficient,
I think it would be,
It's not that it's deficient, it's an opportunity.
Yeah.
it's an opportunity to improve.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I think
It
that's,
is.
it's definitely something I don't know how the rest of the board feels. I think we should move forward with trying to correct that.
Yes.
And at the same time, go to the selectmen and say,
Yep.
can we do this to the street?
I don't have any other questions. Do you have any other questions right now, Dave, or?
no,
or
it's just,
Rachel?
I know Ben wrote a letter, I don't know if anybody got it, just thanking everybody for their time and his absence and whatnot, maybe Tad got it.
Yeah, I got it.
He's excited to be doing what he's doing, but
Yeah,
to me as a dad, I mean, this 28-year-old kid come in and invested buku bucks in your town, and we certainly appreciate that, the help you're putting forward to make it all work, and got a young aggressive kid that's got a good head on his shoulders and trying to make a nice living for himself, or nice future for himself, put it that way. So, I'm proud of him for that, and I thank you folks for that. And you wanna segue into my building at all, or is
Oh,
now
sorry,
not
thank
the
you.
time and place?
Oh, no, I guess we should talk about,
It's all about you, Dave.
at this point, Dave is also looking at, you wanna actually condominiumize your your building?
So my current building is a 5,000 square foot, single slope, just like these two guys here want to build. I currently have 4 overhead doors, so about 5 bays. I'm gonna retain 2 bays for my business and my shop. And then, there's 3 bays. I have somebody who has approached me that wants to purchase the 3 bays as a condo unit. The nice thing about his business, he has 0 traffic flow. He says he has about 115 customers a year. He's coming from Warren Ave in Westbrook, potentially down to here. Very quiet, he doesn't operate in the winter time. And,
What does he do again? He
He's
bought
a-
mini scooters?
yeah, he sells the little scooters, this Cumberland County scooter. Daryl Clark, he lives right here in Kennybunk. So he's been over 3 times looking at the property, it really fits him really well. And he's more of a destination, so if somebody has a scooter in New England, he's one of the guys that they have the opportunity to go to. So he's not relying on traffic. Got 100 parents there so that's kind of a nice thing for him, but, there's
They
no
have different
traffic.
sizes
Does
too.
that
They have
create a
them for the
problem?
5-year-olds.
If it's
Oh,
condo,
I'm telling you, once he
We
quotes
got
my parents,
subdivision
you're a little
going on.
different.
Well, yeah, exactly, right?
okay.
There's a subdivision going on here anyways, they have to do a subdivision
They have to,
application. So you might as well,
Yeah, thank you, Dave. I had it written down, and
So is that, from what,
marry it in with the rest of this
yes.
Just
Right.
make it one application.
for the whole smash.
but
How much
there's
you
no,
gonna do to
no
both?
potential craziness here. Excuse me?
How much are we gonna do in this phase of the subdivision? I mean, we see the,
Well,
we see the common scheme of
we're going
development.
to, we're going to do a site plan approval for lot 7, and then we're gonna do an amendment to lot 1 for the condo units, right?
So we're putting this in this section,
Yes.
cause you're gonna be
Yeah,
doing a
it's a big lot.
subdivision, you're doing a subdivision, so it's gonna be basically
I'm not doing these lots.
3 lots. You're not gonna
No, I
do
do
this?
Right, so it's gonna
Are you
be
gonna do these?
Yes,
Alright,
4, 5,
Yes.
6, 7.
so you wanna do them all?
yes, I
So
have
then
them.
it's gonna be, so you're gonna have 6,
Yep.
you're gonna have 7.
There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and I'm 7.
This is
7, 8, how many, you gonna put 2 in here? How many?
Oh,
units?
those would be,
Sounds like a
well,
good plan.
if that, now how do you determine that? If he buys
How
the
many
3
leasable
units,
spaces you have? How many divisions you gonna put in there?
Two condos.
Division of
Two
a
condos.
condo.
two condo units.
2 condo units, so we got 2 and 7, we got 9 unit subdivision.
Okay, I remember seeing it down there
And
years
so-
ago.
Yes, and so I just wanted, we're not, we have to act and do the entire subdivision, because by the time we build this road and build this road, we need money to, we gotta sell some, hoping some lots here. Build the road, we can't get to here, building turnarounds in some lots. So, yeah. So we're not-
But these all are accessible through this
Yeah.
cul-de-sac.
Yeah, absolutely.
That one gets accessible on 111.
Hopefully,
Maybe,
I know, that's a hopeful thing.
Yeah, that's all.
you gotta talk to DOT.
Oh,
Yeah, yeah,
no,
we
I
know.
get that.
All right,
Although it's
yeah, so you
200.
would do 9 unit subdivision.
Correct.
Okay?
Yeah.
That would be phase 1.
And
Now we have a
lots of units, 9 units,
9 lots, but it's gonna be, this is gonna be condo,
Correct.
and these are gonna be done individually, so it's actually as a, like a planned unit development.
Now, Dave, are you also bringing all your utilities and everything underground?
Don't worry about it.
All right.
Why are your,
Currently, this building is serviced above overhead.
okay, I didn't know how you were thinking for, on your road, how you were coming in with utilities and everything else.
To my understanding, it would be overhead. I haven't,
It's up to you,
Yeah.
I just asked a
yeah,
question.
no,
We have to talk about that, yeah, I haven't thought about it, but. Are we allowed to go overhead? I'll have to double check it.
We have to double
If
check.
not, then we'll have to drop down and just.
Do a drop over there.
Yeah, yeah,
You
I
drop and turn around, put a substation and transfer.
Yeah, I
Look
gotta
at that.
look at the ordinance.
Right now, the pole sits on this side of the road,
Mhm.
so it comes across 111 to here,
Yeah.
and then into the back of my building. So if we need to go underground for the rest of it, you know,
Yeah, you could do the drop.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we'll work on our end, you guys have to
Yeah,
work on
these,
your end.
Bill says he'll work on it next week, and then once we get the numbers, we'll sit down and say, what are the repercussions here?
Well,
figure out what's going
Bill's
on.
gonna talk to Region 1.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, yeah, he's gonna, you know,
is Region 1 the state or
Yes.
the
And
COT?
DOT.
yeah,
Start with.
we'll start the meeting with state. Once he has the preliminary numbers. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you.
I was hoping you were gonna read stories about height of the AT.
Oh, yeah, right?
Well, there was just I went down to see him and I've been down twice. I drove my coach down and met him in Tennessee. And I chased him up the trail for 4 days, brought him his dog. And then last weekend I went down to pick up the dog. And where I met him in Virginia, as I pulled in, there was a hut and there was 8 or 10 of them hanging out. They were just reading about the murder on the Appalachian Trail. And they had just walked through there 2 days ago. So, but the pictures he's been sending are just unbelievable. He's having a great time. His
So
wife's
where
going-
you made it up
I
to?
thought so, I was just making sure.
He's just about 980 miles up.
So I know, where does that take you to?
Oh, that he's still in Virginia. Virginia is the longest state. So I wanna say Larry, Virginia, or Laurie or.
Luray.
Luray. That's about where he is. I think.
But it's getting close to Maryland, or West Virginia,
Yeah.
whichever one you hit first.
But, no, he's having a great time, he loves it, looks great, selfie.
Very good. That's close to West Virginia.
Is he
Well,
hiking with a group or is it just him?
West Virginia and Maryland.
Really?
Where the little
But assuming you don't trail.
Oh, I know, you had to take enough to people.
Oh,
Yeah.
You gotta go through, you go through it, but it's a very quick stretch on the road.
I did the trail to West, which is fine.
Yep, I think it would have to.
Yeah, I'm gonna.
Okay, you just hear from me?
Thanks, folks.
Thank you.
Bye.
So, we have, as I said before, June sixth. With the board of selectmen to discuss how we conduct business and how we do things and how they think we should do it.
What are we doing wrong?
They were a little perturbed with the last set of public hearings that they ran so long, and then we weren't able to talk about Rontu's Run. And the following Monday, everybody showed up, including the two selectmen and the Public Works Director that were here, who had nothing nice to say about you.
Me or all of
The
us?
whole board,
Oh, and staff too.
and staff, and the illustrious Dan DuBois was there to help throw us under the bus.
Former board member too.
Former board member, so they wanna have a sit down and talk with us.
Oh, that's fine.
Yeah, I agree. But that's,
We are on camera.
Good.
that is the plan. So on June sixth at 7 PM, after we do the site walk, we'll meet back here and we'll have a joint meeting with the Board of Selectmen.
Well, you know, it's really hard when you have selectmen that have sacred cows and they are here to intimidate and to make their desires known in terms of blessings that the board gives and those that they don't. And I think it's,
And we will have the opportunity to
and I
explain
think
that
that
to them.
should be something discussed as well. You know, we don't go sit in the selectmen's board meetings and make our presence and our desires known, whether we do it implicitly or explicitly. And the selectmen shouldn't do it here. That's my feeling.
You won't get an argument from me on it. We're gonna, but, like I said, they have said that we're going to have a meeting. June sixth is the earliest possible.
Well, I
They
would
wanted
tell
to
them
meet
we
next
welcome
week.
it.
And I told them that we can't because we have, public hearings that we have to conduct. And then on the sixth, we will have the meeting with the selectmen, and on the twelfth, we will have town meeting, and the following day, on the 13th, we have our next meeting.
This board does a lot of work. And congratulations on the amount of work that you do.
And I think we've gotten a lot of, we've really tried, I mean, at least as my perspective is that when you can work with people who have a need and are trying to develop or change whatever their permits are and their existing properties, I think for the most part, the board makes an effort to make it happen.
I
And,
must admit that I found it uniquely disturbing that the two selectmen and the Public Works Director that were here this evening, when we talked about changing the street design, had absolutely nothing to say about it.
right,
But it would help out a business in town.
The question is, just for clarification, one of the selectmen was here, was not at last,
Phil wasn't there?
no,
Oh, I'm sorry, I thought Phil was there.
no, no.
Then
Yeah,
I
well-
should not have disparaged Phil.
no, but
Just
the
the other
other
people.
two were, and have
Yes.
been at other, and have made
Yep.
their feelings known about their pet projects, or their allegiances and relationships and whatever, whether,
And the town manager is aware of that. He and I have discussed it.
cause that's not cricket as far as I'm concerned, I don't think that's correct.
But he's approved.
And also too, they're not
So-
afraid to turn around and pick on.
So, and,
One
Terminology.
other point,
I'm
Donna
sure
DeKinder
I'm sure they-
has
Maybe
approached
under the
me about getting a group of people together to go through the ordinance. We have different sections of the ordinance that conflict with each other. For example, the way we came across, that information tonight for Paul in terms of the setbacks in the AR district. In another section, the setback is different, but in the AR district, it says 10 feet, and in, what section was it, that had 25 feet?
It's
Yeah.
in the
Yeah.
parking, it's what you do in a parking area.
Right.
And the AR district has a different standard, in the AR district, basically the site standards, the district standards prevail.
Okay, here,
Well, she
correct
wants, she just wants to go through and sit down and get a group of people together,
who
of
wants
citizens.
to do this?
Donna DeKalb.
Donna
Can't you just
Wants-
redline the documents and do, all
Oh,
do
yes,
it that
We
way?
can, we can.
You
The-
can,
the
we don't
issue-
need a group.
We don't need a
I think
group.
it
The
gets,
issue-
gets it too convoluted.
I
The-
totally agree.
Well, you should know that in addition to doing that, she thinks the group should be the one writing the land use ordinance, and all we should be doing is sitting here conducting hearings.
Well, part of this, part of
So there
it,
is an agenda there.
part,
Really?
I know
part
it's
of this,
shocking.
the idea
I'm shocked.
about the different setbacks or anything else, okay? Originally, when the AR district came about, okay, the AR district was not gonna expand until everything was, used up from residential to commercial. It was not gonna expand anywhere down 111 at all. So there was more rules and regulations then. Then when we had Kate's Butter or anything else came in, some of the terminology and everything else was changed around the way.
Well, my point in bringing that up is that she wants to create a committee to do that. I think it would be better if we do that. But I don't necessarily think that it is better if the town planner does that, although he does understand it more than we do. He's overwhelmed with what he's gotta deal with right now.
Well, I've got an idea about that, because I, for one, think she'd be pretty good at doing that.
She would be.
All right, I think, why not, why couldn't the board delegate that task to somebody who would do a good job doing it, and have her as a consultant to the board for that purpose?
I think that having her do that would be very good, cause she'd be very good at going through and do it. The only thing is, I don't want to deal with trying to rewrite the land use ordinance or anything else, just let's
It's
go
just
through
pure
and find
conflicts,
this.
yeah, pure conflicts, and that it should be done in a red line fashion, so it would be a review function by the board. That's it. And that would save time, and it would avoid a situation we saw last time with the meeting. You know, the conflicts within the ordinance, we became a lightning rod for discontent about that, which is not right, and it was kind of frustrating feeling that.
And we will always.
I felt like telling some of these people, hey, I just got here, I didn't write this ordinance. You know?
Well,
Personally, I feel like telling them,
Well, and I
if you
think,
care
I
that
think
much
the
about
review
it,
should
show
be
up and we have your
apolitical.
public hearings.
Right, that's
I
right.
really think it should be,
Right.
it should be an independent person who doesn't have a horse in the race.
Well, and I think that's where Jens was getting from in just a pure red line, not a
Right, that's-
revision to things.
Right.
Not,
Exactly.
not,
That's why I
not
said
changing
red line,
setbacks, not
that's
doing
it.
things, it's just noting things that are
noting the
conflicts.
conflicts,
Yeah.
so that we can then go through. I do think we should put something in the ordinance that says, in the case of a conflict between the ARD and the landscaping requirements, the specific district standards apply,
We could
just to
do that.
clarify it for people.
But let's also understand how these things come about. These things come about because we're doing these things incrementally. We don't do them as one unit. I don't frankly write ordinances. This is the first place I've ever written an ordinance in piecemeal fashion. I write them all at once. So you avoid this kind of conflict. There's years between sections of the ordinance that we've written. And that's what fosters this kind of confusion. Because, quite frankly, it's much easier to do it in one swell swoop than it does,
Fell swoop.
no, in swell swoop.
Yeah, I thought that was on purpose.
It was,
Is that a malapropism?
yes, it is.
Is that like cleaning cages?
Like Mrs. Malaprop?
Is that like cleaning cages?
It's like
I'm
cleaning
sorry, that
cages.
threw me off here. I'm
Sorry about that.
Kind of diverted the attention. But that's one of the reasons why you do it all at once, is because it's much easier to avoid these kind of problems and these conflicts. And if you remember, we were even held, we've been hobbled on several occasions. One, oh, you can change the format, but don't change a single word in it. Remember that?
Yeah.
And you can't make adjustments in this so that they flow together, otherwise we'll believe they're trying to pull a fast one on us. And then even getting down to the issue of business districts versus mixed-use districts versus residential districts, which is how everybody else does their ordinance. We couldn't do that because it was in conflict with some concepts, and now we've got people who are arguing that our use of the terms mixed-use business and residential districts, let's say in our noise ordinance, remember that? That whole conflict? That's because that was built on business, mixed use, and residential, and then it got taken out because we didn't want to then define districts as being business. They were all supposed to be mixed use, so.
Yeah, but that was done by some of the selectmen directions.
Yeah, well, there was, the point is, there's a lot of hands that are pulling in different directions on this ordinance, and that are being done, sometimes for political reasons, because we know it's hard to get an ordinance through as in entirety, much easier to take it piecemeal, but these are the consequences of doing things piecemeal. So, you know, I wouldn't mind somebody redlining it, but I don't want anybody messing with it.
No, and I mentioned that to Donna, but she still seems to think that, in the same way in which we had the comprehensive plan get together with us and sit down and work on the R1.
Right, because she
We should-
wants to emasculate the board
Correct.
and
No, I think
basically,
that's
no,
overstating.
I just meant, and put the real control, the rest of the control in the hands of the selectmen.
No, I
By-
don't think so. For her, I don't think so.
No,
Well,
She wants the control for her.
oh, well, then that's awesome.
I don't think so.
Oh, I
That'd be
do.
great.
She and I are on the same page with that one.
Comprehensive
Well, but-
plan.
But isn't what that meeting is all about on the sixth is in other words, to try to take some of the, decision-making power away
That's not
from
her
the
call.
planning? No, I wasn't, I
Oh,
didn't
no.
mean to jump on
But-
Donna, I just meant, what happens is by having selectmen rewrite and, you know, collate and do all of that with the ordinances, and then want to, you know, pass them and, you know, or pass judgment on them, whatever, it basically takes all the decision-making power away from the planning board, or am I mistaken? If we're just sitting here,
No.
well, I don't think we're gonna let it happen.
You're not mistaken.
So, isn't that ultimately what the end game is? Is to leave the planning board as almost a figurehead and let the selectmen make all the, you know, the important decisions?
They can take the $20.
It feels like a power grab. Whether they view it that way or not, that's the way I perceive it, and that's how I feel it's going down.
Well, when things like that happen, when you have a bunch of selectmen sitting in the back of a room and you're trying to make an honest decision about one thing or another, and it's, you know, not so subtle as to why they're actually sitting here, you know, they obviously don't feel any compunctions about injecting themselves into the decision-making process of the planning board. And maybe I'm just, you know, new and I don't really get it, but as a newbie, that was my perception. They were here for a reason, because they wanted a specific outcome. And they wanted the planning board, they wanted to remind the planning board what that outcome was supposed to be.
And we will see them on the 13th again.
Yes,
No, the issue is really always that, you know, there's a huge difference between the selectmen and the planning board. The planning board is a judicial board, semi-judicial board, you have to make decisions based on standards, regardless of who the people are.
Right.
It
And-
should be blind to who it is. I
And-
mean, just even your statement, and I agree, a daycare center is important to a community. But, you know, the planning board's blind to that in the sense that we say, look, is this use permitted? And are they doing all the things to comply with the ordinance? If they're in compliance, they should get a permit. You could have the greatest thing in the world, and it's not in compliance, it shouldn't be passed,
No, I
regardless
think-
of the politics.
right, I agree with that.
Selectmen are a political board.
Yeah.
And that's why I said with Run To's run, we should go chapter and verse through the land use ordinance, and if they meet the requirements, fine.
Absolutely.
And if they don't, fine too, and then it doesn't
That
become
applies- That
political.
applies to them, and
Yes,
it
I
applies to
totally- I
everybody
agree
in
with
this
that.
room. who comes in
That's
this
right.
room before
It's
this
not,
board.
it's not just Rontu, it's AIM, it's everything that Paul Gad Paul Gadboy brought us everything this evening, so it's all of his clients, we need to follow the
AIM
ordinance.
wasn't his client with CES.
Oh, okay, sorry.
But AIM,
But we need-
AIM wanted a renewal of a permit.
Yeah.
We said, no, you missed the deadline on this a long time, this isn't the first time. In fact, you've missed every permit renewal moment. Sargent doesn't, but you guys seem to do it, and it wasn't just AIM, it was Morgan Steel before that,
Yep.
and the other predecessor.
But we helped Phil, for instance, with his project, so, you know, we weren't completely uninvolved with
No.
trying to,
But Phil didn't lose his permit, he didn't.
no, but
But it
it,
came really close.
He
he
came real
came
close.
really close, well,
Came real close.
actually, you guys really helped him, Jens especially, but all of you,
Yeah.
figure out a way to get to the formula that would allow him to, keep the permit.
Right.
Or renew the permit,
Oh, and use the permit.
and use the permit, so, anyway, so much for my venting.
At any rate, planners report.
Yes, I have, as of May fourth, I received a, letter from the, Department of Agriculture that they find that our animal husbandry, farm ordinance, commercial animal husbandry farm ordinance is in compliance with NAPA. With the
Okay.
Agricultural Protection Act, which in other words
Shocking.
means they, and, you know, I mentioned to the gentleman, I finally found the right guy. The biggest problem is finding the right guy in the agriculture department to talk to, because you call the commissioner's department, commissioner's office, and they don't have a clue what you're talking about. They don't, they sent me to Lurk, of all places. Yeah. And Lurk said, what the hell are you doing here?
Right.
So.
You're in Arundel. It's pretty well organized.
They sent me to Lurk. So, that's what Lurk does. No, they don't. But anyways, I have that letter, and so the amendments that are being proposed are small, minor amendments compared to some of the things we were suggesting. And I talked to the guy, and he says, just send it to us when we're done it, you know, consider this
Yeah.
all right, make some amendments, and we'll send it to us when you're past your public hearing. And he said, I'll just take a quick look at it. You don't
That's great.
need, and it's not 60 days, it's 90 days now. So, 90 days, it's like getting a DEP permit, of course you never get one in 90 days either. But, he turned it around very quickly, so I was pleased about that. Turned around in 60 days. So, in any case, that's done. The other things that we have going on right now, I haven't taken on any more applications, you'll be pleased to know. I do have 3 private ways applications that got processed. We've already approved one, which was, the Holbrook private way, that's been approved. There's 3 more that I've gotta deal with. One of, actually 2 new ones, and one which is an amendment of, the one that you guys kicked over to us, you probably remember, I think it was your first time in, was, Chad Morside's project out in Thompson Road. He wants to do an amendment on that. So, those are going, those are keeping us very busy. The ordinance stuff is all, and I made amendments to the ordinance, and per your instructions, I had to make. You weren't, the board wasn't very specific on some of the changes to, the agricultural. Bert and I talked about that, saying, did you find anything? No, I didn't find anything. So I made some of the changes in the spirit of what was discussed.
We have confidence in you. Tim.
Yes, I
No.
totally agree.
Thank you, I appreciate that. We'll find out if the rest of the town does on next week.
Well, we just need to remember, next week, whatever comes out of that meeting has to go to the selectmen.
Yep.
Or we will not make the town meeting.
It's already gone with the changes that we proposed.
Okay.
It's already written, it's being published.
It's already being published.
Good.
With the changes we proposed for the 30th, so. So you guys are gonna have to basically do one of 2 things, you pull it from the meeting, or you go with what's written, even if everybody hates it. But there's nothing substantially different than it was before.
So can you
Net or
give us a
gross?
heads up, so we
Hey,
can read it before
Yeah,
we get
no,
to the
I'm
meeting?
sorry, I didn't send
So,
that, I had one
okay.
day. I
No,
had
no,
one-
I'm
I
just
had one
saying,
little day last week.
before the
in which
meeting, I wanna
figured
read it
out.
just so I
Hey.
am conversant in what.
net or gross?
Hmm?
Net or gross?
None. 15,000, period. The board's decision if you wanna make it net or gross, your decision, okay?
Fine.
You know, either way, if you want a commercial farm, you're gonna make whatever standard we come up with.
Yeah, I mean,
You'll make that standard. If it's
Right.
net, you'll make sure
You'll
it's
figure
net.
it out.
If it's
Yeah.
gross, you'll figure it out.
Creative accounting.
Exactly.
Oh, did I just say that, Rich?
Yes.
Well, no,
He agrees, I agree.
the question becomes, are you using tax accounting or GAAP?
Well,
If you're
and,
using GAAP, you'll make that $15,000 net profit. If you're using tax accounting,
and
you're
net
never gonna make
profit
it.
is meaningless, I mean, what you could do with the bottom line is.
Anytime I could write off $250,000 on my tax return, I'm doing it.
Oh, wait, I'm hiring you.
No, that's the law. It may have gone up to $500,000, I'm not sure.
So,
Those numbers mean
Wait a
nothing.
minute, wait a
to me
minute.
at that point.
Continue, so
No,
we
that-
can get out of here.
Yeah, and, let me just remind you also, we probably need a training with Leah.
I have been trying to get Keith to set one of those up with
And
the Board of
he's-
Selectmen.
Yeah, well, you want it with them and us with Leah.
Which is, yeah, cause I want Leah to answer a question for them.
Perhaps that's why you haven't gotten the meeting.
Well, I didn't tell them.
The other thing is that, I have had, there's been some real problems getting Leah to respond to a number of things because she's, overworked. I still haven't had a meeting with her for the Dwight Ring subdivision. Yeah,
That's, would be something that would fester.
yes, it's festering. It's not good. And I had an emergency last week, so I couldn't make it.
Now, I mean, so, Leah individually is not our town attorney.
No, we have a town attorney.
Right.
So we need somebody.
Right.
That's what I'm gonna tell her. I need somebody. I want something next week. I'm gonna meet with somebody. I don't care if it's the receptionist.
Send her with
find out if she redlines. The receptionist, I mean.
Oh, okay, yeah. Well, technically, frankly speaking, this is the first town I've ever been in which I didn't have the town attorney look at ordinance changes. Quite frankly, because I was trained from an early age in my career here, that doesn't happen unless you're gonna finance it. So, but we will get an answer for that, because I want this thing resolved, you guys do too.
I think it should be in front of the Board of Selectmen saying that we're dragging our feet.
Yeah, well, we're not.
I
We're not
know.
doing it, we're just waiting for
Yeah.
our attorney to come up. Thank goodness, we don't have an OUI.
But in the,
We're in the
but sort
Boy
of in the
Scouts.
court of public perception,
What's
the
habeas corpus?
people don't pay attention to that nuance.
No, they don't.
So, I mean, that's what,
No,
that's part of the driver behind, our,
Mhm.
come to Jesus meetings with the selectmen.
That's why I would like to have options besides just, I'm just asking for advice.
Okay.
Okay, we'll think about it.
Question for you on another matter. Is Winks open or closed?
Winks is
Closed.
closed, it's closed.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're gone.
Winks 2 is gone.
Huh?
Winks 2 is gone.
Okay,
I mean that both ways.
alright.
Literally and figuratively, apparently.
No, I just happened to go by there and when we had to turn and do the townhouse corner down through there, whatever else not. It was such a thing. And then I was,
It's not there.
It's been closed for a
It
couple of
closed
years.
it, yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Well over a year.
okay, but I'm
Oh,
just,
Almost two.
Oh, yeah.
And I've met with her.
Before I
She's
moved
doing
here, it
kind of
closed,
like a B&B.
before I moved
Yeah.
into the house.
Who is the opponent?
Don't do
Jen?
this. Jen, yeah.
Jen,
right?
Yeah, it's Jen,
Jen.
yeah.
Jen Burrows.
I heard they were gonna make it a boarding, like an inn or something.
It's an Airbnb.
We did discuss you know, we should adjourn the meeting, but.
We haven't adjourned it yet.
I know, but I said
But
we
we should.
should. You know, there was a point in time where we did discuss Airbnb, and I think the consensus was that people don't come to Arundel to rent properties, but I think at some point down the road, they will.
The question will be, do you wanna regulate how people, what people do with their single family homes?
I have an answer to that.
I do too, since I run an Airbnb.
Well, and I think, I mean, I don't know what the sort of existing lodging sort of community is in Arundel.
There is none.
Right,
Right,
so my take is where the Airbnbs are coming under attack in other communities is where there's a strong traditional lodging presence.
Probably right, Kenny.
Yes, I agree.
Or you're in a neighborhood where, I wanna say in South Portland, their problem
right, in
was
the,
that
in
they
the
were
apartment buildings.
slobs and they were not being.
Well, and you know, you buy a condo and you're in a condo building, and some very expensive condos, and you've got a change in people
Right.
going in and out every week, and you have absolutely no idea who's really in your building and who your neighbors really are, so, you know, that's a security issue on top of everything else, but I don't see it
It's not a
happening.
real security issue, because after all, I mean, think about the high rises in the US city, it's the same thing. Turnover is incredible, you know,
But,
people
you
don't
know,
know who lives across the hall.
I don't know, it's kind of a, you know, it's.
I don't think we have a crisis in it at this time.
Oh, I don't think we do either, I
I-
just think it,
We won't have a crisis until the neighbors start to complain, and then it'll become an issue that I think we'll have to deal with. Until that point, I just assume avoid getting into that.
oh, I totally
Agreed.
agree.
Yes.
Totally agree.
Hey,
All right.
anything on the Riverline?
Okay, can we get a motion to adjourn? So
No.
we-
Make a motion, we adjourn.
I had a question.
Oh, okay, Marty.
Which issue on Riverline, which one, there's three?
Well, the one in turn, I was running a taxi or whatever,
I
or,
don't know. I don't know what's happening.
I don't know, there was two others. That's why I'm just saying,
Well, one's the daycare, and the other is the King of Thrones. The high-end porta potties. The trailer porta potties, they're off-site now. They're in another place they
That's
shouldn't
such a
be, at
great
least they're
name.
off-site in Riverline,
okay,
okay?
I'm done my questions.
Okay.
All right, Roger, go for it,
Make a motion, we adjourn.
I second it.
Okay.